Israel. Israel comes to me in my dreams. Where is everybody? Join the stream, folk. Can I post this on my story? I can. Let me pose. Hold up. Oh, what the? Okay, there we go. Midwestern Marks shared the live. Encourage your viewers to share the live. Hey, viewers, share the live. Jeez Louise, how is that allowed? Jeez Louise. And I've been banned on this app 7 times. You need a mod? I'm the mod. Bro, why doesn't it go away? Why doesn't it go away when I block him? It's still there. Bro. I'm the mod. LMAO, bro mogs. I mog all the people saying things they shouldn't be saying in my chat. I'm a Giants fan, so thank you, Cubs, for the Dodgers sweep. Ooh, rough year for the Giants this year, but you bet. It's one of the greatest series of baseball I've ever watched in my life. I don't know if I've been that happy watching baseball since 2016 when the Cubs won the series. It was crazy. It's like the Cubs were playing all the coastal elites this week. It was like Midwest takes on the coastal elites. They played the Yankees. Thank you, Sonny. And then they played the Dodgers. In the Yankees series, Cubs went 1-2. They had good pitching, but the bats were kind of dead, which is rare. Usually it's the reverse for the Cubs. Then they got a bunch of pitchers before the trade deadline and swept the Dodgers, the 2-time defending World Series champs. Hold on. Let me not disturb here, so I'm not getting text messages mid. World Series champs. Hold on. Let me not disturb here, so I'm not getting text messages midstream. So many messages when you help run the American Communist Party, I tell you folks. Thoughts on distributionism, bro? Every stream people be asking that. Is this like more popular than I think? What is distributionism? It just sounds like socialism, but like the government's supposed to just go away magically. And we're going to be able to organize the economy however we want based on the ideas that we have in our head. I mean, if you want my opinion, that's the difference, okay? Thank you, Snazzy Jazzy. There's a book. I can see it on my bookshelf right now. I would go get it, but my phone's plugged in. It's called Socialism, Utopian, and Scientific. Okay, and in this book, it's actually by Engels, but Engels and Marx have a lot of praise for these people who are utopian socialists, like Robert Owen, who is this rich guy that tried to create a utopian socialist community. He was like, this is what society should be like, and I'm going to actually make it. And it was called New Harmony, and it was pretty cool. But ultimately it failed because they were isolated from the rest of the economy, and, You can also be crushed by the state. Thank you. So that was an idealist, utopian version of socialism, and this is what Marx and Engels criticized, although they had great respect for Robert Owen because his heart was in the right place. Thank you, Parviz. But what they said was you can't just invent the kind of economic system that you want in your head and then put that into practice immediately, right? We can't just think, this is what I would like society to ideally look like, and then just create it. Thank you for Eraser. Okay, it just doesn't work. You'll be crushed by the state, and it's just like utopian. This is whatever like right-winger like Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh tell you that communism is. They're utopians. They think they can just make whatever society they want. Actually, that was an idea that Marx and Engels criticized. And what they posited instead was that we need scientific socialism, which is a pretty simple idea. Hopefully you can follow. The idea is that any new society is going to have to emerge from the ruins of the old society, and it will bear the birthmarks of the old society. So basically, we have to build socialism out of what we have now, out of what capitalism has already created, which is, part of their theory was that capitalism creates the conditions for the possibility of socialism, right? It creates, we've talked about this in the past, how capitalism creates all this technology that could be utilized to centrally plan an economy. It creates mechanized agriculture, so we have a lot of food production. It increases the forces of production so that we're producing enough for everybody. But the problem is that it's the vast majority of society's wealth is going to the people at the top, and the workers have no say, and they're overworked, and of course all the problems of capitalism and imperialism that stems from it. Thank you for Eraser. So basically what needs to be done is we need to build a socialist society out of the capitalist society, which is going to happen not all at once, but in steps. You have to take one step at a time. And the way that you do that is by seizing political power, by the working class seizing political power, the power control over the state from the capitalist class, like what's been done in China or Russia during the Russian Revolution. Thank you, Snazzy Jazzy. Make sure you guys like the stream and share the stream. Repost it to all your followers and put me on your story. So this distributionism idea, just sounds like here's what I think society should look like. Let's make it happen. And it's like it doesn't work that way. The capitalist class still has control of the state, and they're going to crush you. So we need to seize political power first, and then build the kind of society that we want in the future, one day at a time, the way that China's doing. Which, in the process of doing that, China has lifted everyone in their country out of poverty and created a system of foreign policy where they're not stuck in endless wars like the United States. So there you go. No more questions about distributism or whatever. I explained it once and for all. Everybody give up on it. Thank you, Sarah. Everyone give up on it and become a scientific socialist. Just kidding. I know more people will ask me about that. It's like the most asked question on TikTok. What are your thoughts on distributism? Thank you guys for all the stickers. What are your favorite books for learning about Marxism, Leninism, socialism, and communism? Probably, I haven't read it in so long. It's like the 3 components and 3 sources of Marxism by Lenin. That's probably what you should start with, honestly. Because it's just like 3 pages long, basically explaining where Marxist philosophy comes from and its intellectual influences that help to produce it. That's what I would start with. Foundations of Leninism by Stalin is good. Depends on what you're looking for. If you're into like economics, the one I just mentioned, utopian and scientific, is really good. If you're like more into economics like I was, start with Wage, Labor, and Capital, Value, Price, and Profit. Or just read Capital Volumes 1 through 3 right off the bat and just be a savage. Do you think Marx was racist? No, I mean he made some comments that would be considered insensitive by today's standards. But he was living in 18th century Europe. But I mean, for his day, he was about as anti-racist as could be. He was the one who said, "Labor in the white skin can never be free, where in the black it is branded." And that was in reference to the American struggle against slavery. How do you feel about the PSL? I answered that last night, but there's a reason I'm a member of the ACP, let's just say that. PSL has good positions on imperialism and respect to them for that, but in terms of organizing tactics, I think it's more of like a protest group. They do some good community work for sure. But they can also be quite divisive and focused on the wrong things, and I have pretty deep theoretical disagreements with them too. It's ultimately a Trotskyist splinter. Are you Polish? No. Modern state of Libya truly reflects anarcho-capitalism. That's true, actually. That is actually true. Would you recommend communists go to college or not? It depends on your goals, you know. It depends on your goals and your financial means. Like, it is a scam. Let's be real. Like, you're not gonna make that much more money. You're gonna be trapped in debt. But you know, it can open doors. It can provide opportunities, and you can learn a lot if you have good professors. But a lot of people go to college and become dumber. Like, not, you know, they're obviously going to learn some stuff and mature during that time, but you're pretty isolated from the world, and you're going to have a lot of liberal professors who shame you for not thinking like them. And, like, if you're unsure about it, I would say just go to trade school and become a welder. I went to college because I wanted to play sports, you know, and that's a different thing, too. But a lot of the people who went to my college were like upper middle class, suburban, rich kids. I don't hate them. You know, I'm still friends with some of them, but like some of those people sucked, man, and I didn't really feel at home with them at all. And when I first got there, they would like make fun of me for being dumb. And then one of them told me recently, like, "Eddie, we used to make fun of you for being dumb, but now you've read so much, you've surpassed us all." And I was like, okay. That's cool to know that you guys were talking behind my back about being dumb, because I didn't come from some private school. I went to public school. Some underfunded public school where I wasn't getting a super high-level education. Oh my gosh, the hair is here. Let's go, bro.
Hello, my
Hello.
name is The Hair.
Hello, hair.
So I was just wondering what your stance on the DSA is currently in the DSA and how they've essentially tried to paint the ACP as not essentially as I wouldn't say an enemy, but something to be concerned about.
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel similarly about them. I mean, not even something to be concerned about. Like, you know, nothing about the DSA scares me or concerns me. But
Yeah,
I don't think ultimately a revolution will come from the Democratic Party. If the DSA were to split from the Democratic Party and actually become an independent thing, I would be more supportive. But they're
hmm
still tied at the hip to the two-party duopoly. But that said,
yeah. I was just gonna say that they're fairly tied with capitalism as it is right now.
yeah, and just this, you know, existing American political system and the way that it's maintained itself for like a century now. But at the same time, you know, the growth and popularity of socialism is a good thing. And I understand why they would be concerned about us, because ACP is the next step forward. Becoming a
Yeah, I
Marxist
mean,
Leninist is the next step after overcoming those bourgeois tendencies that exist within DSA.
I also think like a large part of the DSA holds Marxist values or further left wing values, but obviously they're not going to say that because a large portion of American society is built on the belief that communism is bad without much explanation for it. So, would you say that they're doing all they can right now, given the system they are in?
No, if they were doing all they could, I think they would be creating an independent political party. But you're right that there are caucuses in the DSA who are like fans of Midwestern Marx, for example, or they're Marxists. And, from their perspective, which I think is like an anti Marxist, anti Leninist perspective, both Lenin and Marx and Engels were part of an independent political party, not a capitalist political party that they were trying to subvert from the inside. But from their perspective, they are doing all that they can. They're saying this is the system as it exists. Let's work within it. And I think the position should be that we have to build something independent that can rupture that two-party system. And, again, this is what all of the communist leaders of the past did, and what Lenin and Mao and other revolutionaries did very successfully in building an independent political party that at first was laughed at, but eventually was able to take power. But I
Yeah.
understand where they're coming from. It's like that book, Capitalist Realism. When you've grown up your whole life inside a system like this, it's hard to see any alternative as even a possibility.
So I haven't read like a whole lot of theory, I'm gonna be honest, but just coming from me, like what would you say uh, would be vital to education, especially for the younger generation, and understanding um, the the enemy, which is the establishment?
Yeah, I mean, you should read as much as you can. I people ask me this question all the time, and it depends. Like, since we're talking about organizing in the DSA, I would say the most important books to read there are like Lenin's "What Is to Be Done" or "Left Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder," which are very practical. Something I do all the time, just when I'm chilling, is I'll put on audiobooks of Iskra or Pravda, which was the Bolshevik and Soviet newspaper back in the day that Lenin wrote a lot of articles for, and I'll just listen to his articles about various things that were going on in the movement at the time or his position on various issues. So for organizing, that can be good. If you want to understand the system of imperialism, though, I think you have to read first Lenin's Imperialism and then read
Yeah.
Michael Hudson's Super Imperialism. It's a dense book. I'm working on doing some content right now to simplify it for people. But I mean, if you don't read that book, it's really hard to understand how the system works today. But that's deeper. I would just say read some of Lenin's pamphlets and some of Marx and Engels' shorter stuff.
All right, thank you, bro.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks.
All right, have a good day.
You too. Yo, I thought that was gonna be another guy in a rabbit costume, to be honest with you guys. I was so looking forward to that, and then it was just a normal guy asking normal questions. Get me on. Alright, bro. Just because of your profile picture, this guy's yoked.
Oh,
What
hey,
up?
what's up?
How's it going?
It's going pretty well. Long time fan, first time caller, I guess.
Awesome. Glad to have you.
So where would you go from here? Right now, I'm on. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing little amount, but I'm on like page 35 of Das Kapital right now. Where would you go from here? Of course, completing the book, I feel like it would be natural, but after that,
I mean, you gotta do volumes 2 and 3. I know that's probably sounds like shit, bro. I can barely get through, the first chapter, and like you shouldn't feel bad about only being on page 30. Like the first 3 chapters of that book are dense. They're rough until you like those chapters. You'll go back and read them after you've gotten through more of the book, and it'll seem easier, and you'll realize how awesome they are. But like you kind of got to power through those first 3 chapters, and just keep reading. But maybe give yourself a break and read some Lenin. Like, have you read Three Components and Three Sources of Marxism?
I have not. I've been taking breaks. I'm gonna be honest. It's been 2 weeks and I've read those like 33 pages. It's
That's good.
because I do it like right at the end, like right before I'm gonna go to bed. I feel like what I might want to do is in order to help me like kind of wind down for bed is get it on paper. I want to see if maybe my library has it.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm in Florida, so I feel like maybe the library doesn't have it. But yeah, I think volume one, hopefully they do have it because I feel like that could help me like, like calm down before bed because my job is staring into a screen. I'm a pro sports bettor. So I don't want to stare into a screen more, but I mean, I'll do it to, gain the knowledge there. And one of the big things that I felt I learned was, um, I forgot what it was, but like he predicted the future like perfectly with like one of his takes that I think it was like in like the first 30 pages, but I was like, man, like he was way ahead of his time with that one.
A ton, yeah, like those first three chapters, especially like the third chapter on money. There's so many things that he predicted that have come true. Even there's something in there where he says like basically money could become detached from gold, which is then what happened all the way in 1971. So it's crazy, but yeah, I mean, just personally, I can barely read on a screen at all. I just get distracted. I gotta like put my phone away and do paper books. So International Publishers is a good website that sells books. You can buy it online, or just Jeff Bezos is milking us all dry anyway, so you can just buy it from Amazon too. But I definitely recommend that, especially if you're staring at a screen all day. Especially with Capital, like it's tough to read something that dense on the phone. I feel like, but yeah. And then I would say take breaks and read shorter stuff. Like three components and three sources kind of tells you where Marx is coming from with writing Capital. So maybe that'll even help with the reading of Capital. But just keep powering through, man. You'll learn a ton from that book, or at least I did.
You said three components by Lenin.
Yeah, three sources and three components, I think it's called.
Yeah, my memory is like decent, but I'm gonna write it down so that way I remember this. Yep.
That's a short one too, so.
Yeah. Oh, and to address the people in the comments about Pro Sports Center, hey, I do it. I'm gonna be honest, I don't make a ton. I've only made like what, like 4,500 a month for the first 2.5 months.
Dang.
But look, I'm building my bankroll towards it, and you can do it. But I don't recommend that people do it because it's a vice and it's horrible. And these companies are gonna try to milk you dry. And if there's a company that's even half decent, they're probably gonna get regulated out of your state. So yeah, but I always tell people like you can do it, but I if anybody asks me should I bet, I tell them don't do it because it's a vice. It's like if someone asks you should you smoke, should I drink, I tell them don't do it because it's a vice. It's very fun, but again, it's a capitalist vice. It's an especially capitalist vice where I tell people, you know what, like chill with it. If you don't see yourself wanting to do it, then don't do it. Like that. But
Thanks.
oh man, you know what? I'm gonna give that guy a chance because he says Eddie King answered me. Thank you so much for having me on, man, and thank you for your recommendations.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming up, bro. I agree wholeheartedly on sports betting, by the way. It's a vice, and it probably shouldn't exist, but I am up $40 on DraftKings right now for betting on the UFC, so ACP will soon be funded by me and Rob Nation's sports betting addiction. Just kidding. I don't have an addiction. The only reason that I'm up is because I'm not addicted. I just follow MMA really closely, and every once in a while there's a fight where I'm like, that's a gimme, or those odds don't make any sense, and this guy who's an underdog has a really good chance to win. And I put a couple bucks on them, and I usually win. The craziest one, for those of you who follow MMA, I won like $100 by betting like $20 on Juliana Pena to beat Amanda Nunes, which is the odds on that one were crazy. It's considered one of the biggest upsets in MMA. But man, I've done combat sports my whole life. I had watched Juliana Pena her whole career, and I was like, you know what? Juliana Pena is really tough. She has a lot of belief in herself, and Amanda Nunes is really good, and she's been on top for a long time. But I don't think she got too cocky or anything. I just think she got like complacent and bored and maybe a little bit too cocky. Was like underestimating Pena and thought she was going to walk right through her. I'm like, that's not going to happen. And I think Nunez is going to get tired and get choked out. And that's what happened. And then for the second fight, Nunez was more focused, and I was like, okay, Nunez is going to win this one. But I made like $100 betting on Juliana Pena, which is, people don't even believe me when I say that because it was such an upset. Thank you, comrade from Turkey. No, I'm sad you ignore my chats. I'm sorry, bro. I was just ranting. I can't keep up with all this. Would you beat me in a fight? Be honest. I don't know. Are you John Jones? I'm not gonna lie, bro. And I mean this in the most respectful way possible. Looking at your profile picture, I would put my life savings on me. Respectfully. But, never judge a book by its cover. Okay, I'm just not seeing any cauliflower here. I faded McGregor versus Holloway. That won me 1,000. The Zionist lost. Nice. Yeah, that was another one where I'm like, the odds are way off on this. Like, just because McGregor's famous, like, the odds were not as far in Holloway's favor as they should have been. When communism is called the absence of class, does that include non-economic classes? Like race? Like we're all going to become one amorphous blob under communism? All right, we'll let For Eraser up because this guy always makes me laugh. What's up, bro?
Hello? Yo, what's up? How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I managed to troll that opinionated girl twice in 24 hours, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah? What did you do?
Okay. First time, she was talking about, like, trauma of October 7th, and I went up and I pretended like I lived in Israel and, like, started, like, crying, and then she, like, ended the live, but, like, right before she ended it, she was, like, saying bye to everyone. I was like, hey Maddie. I don't think I can say what I said to her, but it was pretty mean. And then the second time I joined, I pretended to be a girl to like circumvent her mods. I was like, what do you think about like, hey Maddie, and then something not very nice.
That's good. I hope somebody clipped that.
No, I
That girl
hope.
is wild.
They were like, her mods were like, oh, I did he say enjoy yourself? I can't tell because of his accent. I was like, yeah, I said that. But anyway, I just have like a question about like culture, like looking like back, like I'm 19, so I wasn't there for it, but like looking back in like the 2000s and like 90s, like a lot of the music was a lot more politically charged than it is nowadays. I mean, even if it wasn't like blatantly socialist, I mean, you had Green Day with like very anti-war, anti-Bush stances, especially in like Iraq. And then you might not know this band, but they were very big in the UK, Manic Street Preachers, where they actually went and played in front of Fidel Castro in Cuba. And it's looking at music today, maybe be like a little bit political. Maybe you'll have Taylor Swift saying like, guys, we have to stop being mean to the gay people. And it's like, well, yeah, you probably should. But like, I think everyone understands that. And it's just like, what do you think about like, do you think there's like a lot more pressure in the music industry now to be a lot less politically charged and just push out like some guy slop or like?
Yeah. But before I answer that, have you ever heard the Andy Samberg song "I'm Not Gay"?
I have.
Where he's like parodying Macklemore and all them. Where he's like, "Gay rights, but I'm not gay." That's basically the whole joke of the song. Yeah, it's about all we get right now, or the best we can get right now. But I mean, it absolutely is. It's I mean, Michael Parenti, and it's what's crazy is his book on the entertainment media and music and movies was written in the 90s. And at that point it was already like consolidated, or like control of the entertainment industry was hyper consolidated by Zionists and the owning class. And I mean, it makes sense, fall of the Soviet Union, just transitioning from the Reagan era into the Bill Clinton era, when when the Democrats went neoliberal. Like the '90s was really when sort of neoliberal hegemony was ultra consolidated here in America and abroad. But Parenti talks about that where like it's almost impossible for any class conscious art to get through. Almost impossible. And that's changed a little bit with the internet, you know. But even still, the best we get is JPEG Mafia, who's like an anarchist weirdo who doesn't even make that good of music. It's just the record labels, and you know everything is. It's it doesn't even make sense from a profit perspective, and this is one of the things I've talked about recently, where like as production is monopolized more and more at the top, the owning class is more concerned with the use value of commodities rather than just their exchange value. So even though like a movie like Spartacus could have made the ruling class a ton of money, and it eventually did make them a ton of money, like the CIA and the elite did everything they could to make sure that that book wasn't published because it had a class conscious message. And today, I don't think they would allow anything like that to get through. It has to be snuck in. Like the Odyssey kind of had a hidden message about the fall of Western society, but it had to be like snuck in. It was just in the undertones. And the only reason Christopher Nolan was able to do that is because he already made, you know, a comic book movie series that was extremely popular. So people were willing to see his movies, and he can pretty much do whatever he wants within reason. So yeah, it's just the studios at the top have political motivations. There are ways that the State Department and various NGOs and ideological organizations are tied in with Hollywood. And I mean, just look at what happened to Roger Waters when he did a concert where he depicted the Yahtzees as bad guys, and he just got attacked relentlessly for weeks by Zionists saying that he was supporting the Yahtzees, just completely lying, making shit up. But yeah, it's just corporate control.
Yeah, W. Roger Waters though.
Yes.
I think like in relation to that, you familiar with the My Chemical Romance?
Yes.
So me and my girlfriend and my dad, we saw them last month. I didn't pay for the tickets, thankfully, but even just to go see them, it was £750. And do you think it's more of like an artist control or just the industry? Because I mean, like one of like their most popular songs, they're talking about how like it was such like a eye-opening experience and how sad it was for like their favorite like bands and like their heroes to be like selling cars on TV, and then it kind of turns into them like basically turning into them selling the cars on TV.
Yeah, it's 100% industry control. I mean, and artists are usually struggling, and like if you really want to make revolutionary music and not sell out, like it's tough. You're not going to get signed to a label, and people do that now and they go independent, but you're never going to have the level of commercial exposure. Thank you, TI. You're never going to have the level of exposure that you would if you just sell out and made, you know, goy slop that the industry and record producers want you to make. So, I mean, the only way to do it is to be like Roger Waters, and Pink Floyd was always pretty based, you know. They're always really based, actually. But like, he made a name for himself early on, and now in his old age, he's like hyper political. So that's one way to do it. I guess you sneak in, and then you stop giving a fuck when you're 70 and start just speaking out. But you know, if you're an up and coming artist who wants to make it, the pressure to sell out is immense.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was doing music in college for a little bit, and you know, even when we were being taught, it was a lot like we were being taught like how the music business works, and it was like, oh well, you're gonna have to have this sum of money, and then they'll give you this sum of money, but you're gonna always have to like be respectful to them. You're gonna listen to what they do. If they tell you they want to do something with your piece of art and change it, you're basically always to go along with it, which is why I kind of dropped out of music, because it's like, well, if I wanted to make art, I want it to be like my own and not controlled by some weird corporatist elite.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough road. and you could do it, but we want to encourage that too. Like we have artists in the party, and rappers like our boy Treasy. Shout out to Treasy. But yeah, you're gonna get no help from the industry, basically.
Yeah, I might just have to stick to Blink-182 cover bands. I don't know.
There's nothing wrong with that. Blink-182 is great.
Yeah, kind of sold out at the end, but W Tom DeLonge. But one last like shorter question. Like, what do you think about like Scottish independence? Have you read much on it, or do you not really care?
No, I know about it. I was talking to one of my British friends about it in Russia, and for some reason they were like originally against it for like kind of the same reasons that ACP doesn't support balkanizing the US, like when the capitalist class has kind of used balkanization to divide up the world and make it easier to exploit. And like it'd be easier to just have one UK revolution, and turn England, Scotland, Wales, all of them socialist. Although they got to give Northern Ireland back, because it's not even part of the same island. But for some reason, they had changed their opinion and were supporting Scottish independence. Maybe the character of Scottish independence and the struggle had changed. I know it was traditionally more of like a petty bourgeois thing, but I don't know. I can't remember it all. So I do care. I find it super interesting, but I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Especially when I was younger, when we had our independence referendum, it was definitely like influenced my opinions. Were influenced by my family, who were not like a military background, but my granddad served in the military. He didn't go on like any tours, but he just was based in Germany, and he was pretty against it. But I think it's a lot of it's changed, especially with UK like overreach on the devolved parliaments in Scotland and Wales, and especially with American like military bases. I mean, I saw like some Ukrainian propaganda account like reposting like a clip from a TV show saying that because we have so many bases of American, and I like live like 20 minutes away from where basically all of the nuclear submarines are held. They were like, if Scotland goes independent, then Russia is going to be able to blow up Europe, and first of all, they're going to invade Scotland. Like, oh no, yeah. But definitely got to give Northern Ireland back, and I think I would. I mean, I like some of the benefits of living in the Union. I mean, my girlfriend lives in England, and she's English, so I definitely like being like able to travel pretty cheaply and not having to bring a passport or anything.
Right.
But definitely give Northern Ireland back, and I'd definitely support a United Kingdom under like socialist rule. But that's all I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I'll have to look more into it. But
yeah, cheers. I'll see you later. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Yep. Have a
Bye.
good one. That guy leaves some of the funniest comments. I'm not surprised he was trolling that opinionated girl. He leaves some of the funniest comments. It's that like British humor, I guess Scottish humor. It just freaking cracks me up, bro. Those were the same arguments people were making for Brexit too. They're like, if the UK leaves the European Union, then Russia will win, and Europe will lose. And it's like, oh wow, don't tempt me with a good time. Fuck the EU. One of my friends. One of the people who got me into Marxism got called a fash in college by some girl for saying that Jeremy Corbyn should have respected the Brexit vote, and saying that Jeremy Corbyn basically lost the election in 2020 because he said he was going to bring Brexit up for a vote again after it had already been voted on. And I was like, I didn't even know anything about Europe at the time. I'm like, what? That makes him fascist? And now that I actually understand the situation, I think that's even more absurd. Yay ho! Thank you, Ella. Thank you. Thank you. Hold on, it's getting dark. Gotta turn a light on in here. Scots were like collaborationists and loyalists, no? I think so. And I think the independence movement was like petty bourgeois at the beginning. But answering, I just need help with an Uber home. This is an emergency. I need your help. My car broke down and got impounded and I have no one. Bro. Are you serious? Someone give this man a Venmo for an Uber. I'll buy you an Uber, bro. Where are you at? What Midwest state are you from? I'm from Iowa. Well, I grew up in Wisconsin. Don't take on music as a full-time job. I mean, that's a not bad advice. What are your ears all messed up from? Wrestling. Bro, what did someone say earlier? Where's that? There was some lady talking shit, and then I was like, come up here. And she's like, I don't even disagree with you. I'm like, why are you talking shit then? Do you think China would have been any more advanced than it is now if they didn't do the capitalist reforms? No. No, they needed to do that because they were choked off from global markets. It's like every country in the modern world needs to trade. And they would have been blocked off from global trade and probably would have been suffocated and overthrown. So. What's your argument against people who say you don't need to work under communism? I mean, the argument is just reality. Who gonna make the food, bruh? Communism is when we build the most advanced society possible, where everybody's needs are met. Now, nobody should be working even 40 hours a week anymore with the level of automation that we have, but like we need more engineers and scientists to automate production even further. I know there are some people waiting. I'll let you up in a sec. I just want to get through some of these comments. If you don't work, you don't eat. It's really, if you want a serious answer to that question, read Engels on authority, right? Because people say communism's authoritarian, and in reality, life is authoritarian. You know, there's an authority that's enforced by nature and the needs of humanity to reproduce itself and survive that's enforced upon us the day that we're born. Right? The earliest humans had the authority of nature enforced on them, where they had to go out and hunt or gather food and water if they wanted to survive. You know, it's the authority of being human and reproducing yourself. And in every society, stuff needs to be produced. It's just how do we organize that production? It's not like we could all just stop working tomorrow because, you know, work is hard or whatever. Like, yeah, it is hard, but that's the reality of being a human. But we have such advanced technology today that the amount that we're working makes no sense. And actually in the US, we have all these, what David Graeber called bullshit jobs, these paper pushing jobs, because we have such a hyper financialized economy and we import a lot of stuff from abroad rather than actually producing it ourselves. So we're working 40 to 60 hours a week in these soul-sucking desk jobs, pushing paper around to make money for whoever's above us. And, I mean, it's a really soulless existence. No event if you do that, like, you gotta survive. But if you do one of those jobs, like, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's brutal. But be a girl boss and climb the corporate ladder. That's liberation. Liberation is when you work for Raytheon and help their shares go up, 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 and break that glass ceiling. What do you think about Palantir Peter and Spider-Man Brand New Day? I haven't seen it yet. I went to watch The Odyssey in theaters, and That was good. I don't want to ruin my brain. Gotta keep the shareholders happy. Remember that scene in Batman where he like starts spying on everybody's phones and he's like, "We have to do it to stop the bad guys." And Alfred the butler, Morgan Freeman, is like, "Yo, this is messed up." But in the movie, like, it helps him catch the Joker. So you're like, "Oh, Batman is in the right. We do need to spy on people." That's neocon propaganda, okay? Based Morgan Freeman. He was right. The NSA isn't stopping anybody by spying on our phones, except revolutionaries who want to fight for a better world. All right, Casey's been waiting for a while. Morgan Freeman is still alive, I think. Hello. Uh-oh. I don't think your mic's working, Casey. You guys can still hear me, right? Thank you, Ella. All right. Casey said he had an idea he wants to run by me, but I don't think so. Oh, there he is.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
All good.
So yeah, you're a really smart person, and I wanted you to help me through this idea I have. So the stock market is owned by basically the big banks, right? And all of the stocks are owned with DTCC and the CEDE company or whatever, and other people are just beneficiary owners of those stocks. So the big banks basically are who I'm trying to protest against with, some kind of actual action would be just using credit unions. If a great number of people just silently protested and switched to credit unions, wouldn't that get, like people's ears to perk up, and wouldn't that be super easy for people to do?
How different though? Like my buddy works for a credit union, and from what he's told me, like the name is just basically propaganda, and that credit unions function almost exactly the same way as banks. Maybe they don't invest in stocks, but like their purpose is still to loan money and make wealth through debt and interest.
Right, but they use, it's a localized thing. So the community is actually the ones getting those loans, and it's not the five biggest banks who basically run the world anyway. So I thought that using credit unions, because it's kind of like using a small business in your community versus, Citibank, Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, Goldman Sachs, and it goes on, that these people are basically run by isn't real, or at least there's an influence there, which I think gives that nation credibility through, basically our biggest export is the market, in which these banks do own the market.
Yeah, I don't. The problem is most of those banks make their wealth through ownership of. They're not making their wealth through like savings or even like consumer loans, which is why credit unions are able to exist and do more on the consumer level. Like most of their wealth is coming from loans to massive corporations, foreign corporations, and the purchase of U.S. financial assets by foreign banks that have a surplus of U.S. dollars. So when like a foreign country runs a balance of payment surplus, meaning they export more than they import, unlike the U.S., which imports more than we export, that gives them a glut of U.S. dollars, and then they use those U.S. dollars to buy financial assets from giant U.S. banks. So even if like all the little guys started going to credit unions, I don't think it would do much actually to hurt the bottom line of the largest banks. Um, which is why I just think the only solution is revolutionary struggle, basically just seizing these banks.
Right, but we can't even organize people enough to go to a credit union, let alone, going out onto the street. I mean, we can't even get the minimum wage increased, right? I mean, organization is really the biggest challenge in all of this. So I was just trying to find the easiest kind of protest that we could possibly do and would affect the billionaires and the large corporations the most.
Yeah, I think the easiest would be forming a union at a workplace and going on strike, organizing unions at some of these large. Like I was recently interviewing people and helping to um, doing what I could to take part in the Amazon labor organizing efforts, basically trying to unionize these big Amazon facilities because them going on strike, I mean, that's the pressure point of the economy. If the workers stop moving product or producing product, or John Deere was another one that I was involved in, then that's what really hurts the bottom line of both the banks and the big corporate owners. So I think that's the easiest. Or like what we're trying to do now with the party is organize truckers, get truckers in a union, because if you're able to shut down shipping, I mean, you basically handicap the biggest corporations and banks. So I think that's the easiest and most effective short term route.
Yeah, up for each sort of company to control their own, because that is probably the weak point in our society today is workers' rights. Like, there's no rights for workers. This is like the jungle by Upton Sinclair almost. I mean, that's where we're at right now. It's almost like there's nothing provided for the workers, not even a higher wage besides $7.25 as the minimum. So I don't know. That was just something I was coming up with because on the stock market side and the derivatives, like the banks are the ones that actually own the stocks. Like that's why that GameStop thing was so interesting to me.
Yeah.
That things could actually bring those guys down on a very kind of small revolutionary level, just in beating them in their own game because they're selling naked stocks. They don't have those to sell because there's so much shade in the derivatives market and all of the other basically illegal gambling and dark money and pools that these financial institutions are taking place in. Like, so to go after because that's like not even, that's quadrillions of dollars in the derivatives market.
Mm-hmm.
So to disrupt that really can shake the economy and really can turn things up on its head just by getting into their pockets a little bit, getting the blue and white country to understand that the people of the United States actually have some sort of organizational power. And I just thought, with it being a small community like a credit unions provide, and giving back to those smaller communities, the smaller businesses and the smaller, anything under $4 billion really is not even affected. So it's really only going after the large.
Yeah, and I'm always down for that. Like I use a credit union for my banking. I try to avoid chains, and shop at small businesses. Like that's always good. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just making the point that it's going to take eventually something larger. But I get what you're.
Yeah. No, I mean, credit card debt's at an all-time high right now, and I can only see things getting worse with some of the financial side stuff. And I'm not even into it that much. I just thought it was a good idea. And you have a larger platform. You have the ability to sort of organize, or at least dwell on the subject a little, think about it, and then maybe move forward from there and see if something could ever take off, because I think that would be a fantastic direction for the small people to have a voice. But that's just me, and I wanted your opinion on that, and I wanted you to just hear that and let me know what you thought. So thank you for the time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you for coming up.
All right,
See ya.
I'll see your stuff later. Bye.
Thank you. Sounds like that guy's a farmer, a snowboarder, and a small business owner. That's what his bio says. That's the American dream right there. What a legend. Yeah, I mean, dude, if you can start a small business, do it. Don't think that because you're against the establishment that you have to like live in poverty or something. Like the big banks and shareholders own everything. Small businesses are much better. I know some people would disagree with that because they're like dogmatic, but it's just the facts. Do what you can to make money. Same with the guy who's working as a professional sports bettor. Like, do what you can to make money. That doesn't make you Jeff Bezos or freaking Peter Thiel. Like, these are the enemy, not some person who owns like a sandwich shop. Okay, what is this person saying? Why do you always use the wrong pronouns for Madeline Pendleton? Madeline Pendleton? What pronouns am I supposed to use, bro? What? Is she not a woman? Don't think the Red-Brown Alliance is too risky. That's the one thing stopping me from supporting ACP now. Bro, we do not want a Red-Brown Alliance, bro. Nick Fuentes has me blocked on Twitter. The Fash are our biggest enemy. Those people are scum degenerates. We don't want an alliance with them. These people who just talk about race all day. These freaking degenerate Reddit 4chan moderators who think that they're the master race. You think I want to ally with them? I will drop these people on their heads. There is no Red-Brown Alliance, bro. Fuck that. And if you think there should be, you are deeply misguided about the nature of these far-right political actors in America. Dan Bilzerian? What about Dan Bilzerian? ACP has nothing to do with Dan Bilzerian. I just think it would be hilarious if Dan Bilzerian beat Randy Fine. Like, that would be so funny to me. Because Randy Fine is such a scumbag who's trying to get my friend Jackson arrested. And Dan Bilzerian's this, like, ridiculous poker player, rich influencer guy. You should fight Prax Ben. I'm down. I can't support Tucker at all, bro. That's fine. I'm unsure about Tucker. I mean, I like a lot of what he says, but he seems way too friendly with JD Vance, who's a Palantir puppet, and I don't like that. But hopefully, Tucker's a good faith actor, because that would be good for the country. But if he's a Fed who's playing the long game, that would be very, very bad, because he has a lot of influence. Tucker is an op, says useless cat farmer. I'm not going to say you're right. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I don't know. But, like, I definitely think that argument has credence. That's what I'll say. The way he talks about JD Vance is not encouraging at all. He speaks way too highly of JD Vance. He's, like, positing that JD Vance is the guy in the administration who's anti-Israel and wants to release the files and is against the Iran war. That's just not true. J.D. Vance is a Peter Thiel op who knows that he needs to act like he's the anti-Israel guy who actually cares about the anti-war promises that Trump made on the campaign trail. I mean, of course Peter Thiel knows that. He knows how anti-Israel the country is. He harvests all our data. He controls all our, social media. Or not controls, but can see or spy on all our social media interactions. So he knows that in the future, to get the young Republicans, the young right-wingers, they need someone who pretends to be anti-war. And now that Trump has sold everybody out and started a war with Iran that nobody wants, they need someone else. So they need JD to pretend like he's not on board with what the administration has been doing. And for Tucker to be like, and Tucker's son works for him. Tucker's been talking about him positively, and that's like, you got to stop that, dude. But then on the other hand, Tucker says that we need a third party in America, an independent anti-war party. And he trashes Israel and talks about evangelical Zionism all the time and destroyed Mike Huckabee. And, that's all positive stuff. But what happened to the person about Madeline Pendleton's pronouns? I was curious about that. Does ACP support neo-libertarian phalangism? Obviously. That's the only alliance we want. We want the yellow-red alliance. Thoughts on flock cameras? It's surveillance capitalism. That's the direction we're going, the rule of tech oligarchs. I don't know what I can say about the people vandalizing flock cameras, but I'll give you that hand signal. Do you like Limonov, the Nazbol leader in Russia? I've never actually read him. I've heard that he wrote some interesting stuff, but I don't see that party as being something that we need to replicate. It's a very distinctly Russian and German thing. My pronouns are Optara. My pronouns are USA. My pronouns are ACP. What books are you reading right now? I'm reading 2 books. I'm reading Super Imperialism by Michael Hudson, which I could rant about for an hour, but I would bore you and lose the whole audience. But I'll make a video about it soon and try to dumb it down and condense it. I wrote a tweet about it today that was pretty good. Basically, super imperialism for dummies. And I made an infographic to explain how imperialism works today. And then I'm also reading a book called Move by Rob Gray, which is more for my coaching career. But there's also a lot of philosophy to it. It's about sports development, the science of how athletes develop, and basically criticizes a lot of traditional ideas about how to train athletes. It draws heavily on Soviet thinkers. So. As an ML sympathetic Jew, I'm curious if ACP would support ML Israel. Honestly, bro, no. I'm just going to be real with you right now. If Israel were to not be an apartheid state, if Israel were to allow Arab Palestinians to live there and have voting rights, it would cease to exist as a country. And it would just be Palestine. That's why it's in order for Israel to exist, they need to be an ethno-state. Like, they need to completely deprive the indigenous population of any and all rights. And it's just like an artificial entity. It's an artificial entity that Europeans and Russians and Jewish and Americans have moved to from around the world and planted on top of Arab land. And that's always acted as a neo-colonial outpost of the U.S., and there have been socialist parties in Israel. The labor Zionists were one of the founding parties. They were the original, party in Israel, and the G-side and horrific crimes were still going on under them. They were still acting as a tool of Western imperialism. The Jews should be allowed to live there in peace, alongside Arabs, and they did for years, of course. But it should just be Palestine. It should be the Marxist-Leninist state of Palestine. So, I appreciate your sympathy, but I'm not going to lie to you. We don't recognize the Communist Party of Israel as a legitimate party. Only the DFLP and the PFLP. Independent on what they call Arab labor, says your favorite guy. Hey, Guy, how's it going, brother? Yes, exactly. Thank you, Professor. Exactly. There's no progressivizing Israel. That's because, like I said, the second Israel stops becoming an ethno state, it's majority Arab. The whole region is majority Arab, and those people are going to vote for it to be called Palestine again. And Israel, as we know it, will cease to exist. And that's what when they're saying, Israel has a right to exist. Do you believe Israel has a right to exist? What they're saying is, do you believe they have a right to enforce or to prop up a ethno state, a Jewish ethno state that systematically subjugates Palestinian Arabs? Because if they weren't an ethno state, then no, the state of Israel wouldn't exist. And no, that's not a call for G-side, like they say. That doesn't mean all the Jews would have to die or go away. They could live there, but they don't get to have an ethno state, just like, or an apartheid state, just like America shouldn't be allowed to have an apartheid state, and the fall of Jim Crow apartheid was a good thing. So, that's my thoughts on that. And, bro, there are Marxists who say crazy stuff about that. There are Marxists who are like, Israel is historically progressive because they're bringing democracy to the Middle East. Bro, shut the fuck up. All the resistance organizations against Israel in that region are the most socialist and developmentally minded economically. Israel's just a rentier state, an outpost of the U.S. that lives off of, as Guy said, Arab labor. Tell chat how I've been gripping your sheets up, brother. Please. Please. When is Midwestern Mark's Roblox live stream? Soon, brother. Soon. As soon as I learn how to play Roblox. Isn't that the game where they go, ooh, ooh? There's that Minecraft. I just say, do. Yo. That was awesome. Yo, if you're going to send me another gift, make it that one. Anybody in here. That was awesome. I felt like Bob Marley for a second there. I shot the sheriff, but I didn't shoot the deputy. Yeah, that is Minecraft. That's what your character says when he gets hit by a zombie or something. Ooh. Thank you, Red. Oh, we achieved our goal. Woohoo. We did it. Oh, it was just roses. Let's set a new one. How do I set it to be? Alright, whatever. Let's do this. Help me achieve my first goal and I'll sing a song. Yo, I did not type that. Okay. We already hit it. I shot the sheriff, but I did not shoot the Israeli. Or did I? Thoughts on the Nordic model? It's just imperialism and capitalism with a few extra treats. It's like if Bernie Sanders would have won in the U.S. Like, we'd still be funding Israel and everything would still be controlled by the elites. But maybe we'd have a little bit more healthcare. How do you feel about the Black Belt thesis? I think it's outdated, and I think it was foisted on the Communist Party USA from Moscow, where they had very different situations. You had all the Soviet autonomous socialist republics, whereas like black people and Mexicans and Chicanos are all like completely integrated. Not complete, I don't want to say there's like no racism or anything in America, or that the system doesn't put black or indigenous people or whatever in worse economic situations. But like, I don't think a lot of black people, like the vast majority of black people in America, see themselves as American. Thank you, Vipo. I don't think they would actually want their own country carved out of America. if that's what they wanted, if that was what enough people said they wanted, I would support it. I just don't think it's popularly supported. And the CPUSA went along with the black belt thesis, but I don't know if it actually helped them. Now the Black Panthers were a little different because they were organizing these like majority black communities where people were like redlined and herded into these ghettos, and they were like, we're basically going to establish self-determination right here where we're at, which is super based, and I totally support that. I just don't see that going on today. If it did, I would support it. As far as like some of the regions like Montana and the Dakotas, I definitely think there should be like indigenous autonomous zones where those places are like vast majority indigenous. But it should just be like the Xinjiang autonomous region in China, rather than creating like an independent country that can be like turned against the U.S., kind of like what the U.S. did to Yugoslavia, where they turned all these different ethnic groups against each other and balkanized the country into smaller parts so that they'd be easier to control. Or the Arab world and Africa are probably the best examples of how they, Pan-Africanists are like, we should have one Africa, one country, so that we can't be carved up into all these smaller countries and turned against each other. And then the U.S. controls turns one of these African countries into a puppet state. All of a sudden they can use it as a launching pad for regime change against revolutionary African states who share a border. Like they use South Africa invaded a bunch of revolutionary African states back in the day. It was like the Israel of Africa, when it had the apartheid government. I think it's better to have a country like China that's large and strong and unified, and you have 50-some different nationalities living under one civilization state. But that being said, you got to, like the Xinjiang autonomous region, those people have control of their own religious practices and large control over their own education system. And it's a majority Muslim region that functions a little differently from the rest of the country, but they're still part of the PRC. They're still part of the People's Republic of China and the socialist system. So I see it as something like that in the U.S. Especially because, even if we have a revolution, it's not like the capitalist class will be defeated. It'll be like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel will be on the back foot, but they'll still have money and power. And, that struggle will go on for a long time. Just like the Civil War in Russia. They had the revolution, but then after the revolution, they had to fight a civil war against the reactionaries. That's what we're headed for in America. The White Army, exactly. Revolver Corvid. And you know who the White Army was backed by? Every imperialist power. And if America were to have a revolution before Europe, you know who would back the reactionaries and the American White Army here in the U.S.? Britain. And what other countries? Maybe France. Probably not Spain. Maybe Italy. You would have European countries backing the reactionary forces here in the U.S. It's hard to imagine. But this goes into our opinion about Canada, where it's like Canada and the United States should be unified, because the American Revolution was supposed to unify the U.S. and Canada, but the British were able to keep control of it, and that's how Canada became a thing. It was just a British colony. And if the U.S. had a revolution, Canada would be used as a launching pad by reactionary forces to crush that revolution. It's crazy to even think about, because we're so used to both the U.S. and Canada being dominated by banks and corporations. But if one has a revolution, we got to bring the other one along with us. We're not going to abandon our boys in the Great White North. You got to have a revolution in Canada, don't you know? What's that all about? What's that revolution stuff all about? Hey, boys, let's get our axes. All the lumberjacks. I'm sorry. All us lumberjacks are going to have a revolution. This is what it's all about. What it's all about. Dude, I had to do a Midwest. My accents are so bad. Anyone who's heard my Irish or British accent, or even my Trump voice, is like, please never do that again. Like, your accents are so bad. My Australian accent's bad. My Russian accent's okay, but today I had to do a Midwest accent for mocking Haley Stevens in Michigan, that Zionist candidate who got millions of dollars from AIPAC to beat the Muslim guy. She lost, but and I was like, finally, an accent I can do, because I already have a Midwest accent. I can do a New Jersey accent. We gotta go to the wrestling tournament. Hey, we gotta book this guy up. Who were Bolsheviks backed by Midwest Goy? You hate my people, but say this anti-Semitism. Bro, what the hell are you talking about? Get out of here, Shlomo. How are you sympathetic to the ACP and a Zionist at the same time? Are you saying Goy unironically? Or is this like a troll? Or are you like a right-winger? You went from saying you were sympathetic about the ACP to like freaking out because I told you don't get to have an ethno-state in the Middle East. Typical. Thank you, Marco. Thoughts on Kosovo Albanians? I played one on chess.com the other day. He was chill. It was actually funny. I should have screenshotted it. I was like, are you from Kosovo? And he's like, yes. I'm like, oh, I've never played anyone from Kosovo. And he was like, the U.S. has always supported us. And I was like, true. There's more NATO bases there than anywhere else on Earth. And then he didn't say anything else. And then I beat him in the game. And I said, USA colonizes Kosovo once again. He resigned, though, so I think he left before he saw it. I am Jewish person who's sympathetic to ML because Marx was from a rabbinic family and study Jewish theory. Well, if you're a real ML, I don't think you should support Israel, brother. You know who funded the Palestinian resistance? Stalin and Mao. Mao called Israel a base of Western imperialism in Asia. And that boy was right. Abdul claims to be a capitalist and is anti-corporations and monopolies. You think he's just capping? I don't know who Abdul is, but he's just confused, bro. People be saying the dumbest stuff, like, I'm pro-capitalism but anti-monopoly. I'm pro-capitalism but anti-crony capitalism. That's what they always say, crony capitalism. I'm like, bro, that's just capitalism after it develops after many years. What is the end result of market competition? What's the goal of market competition? It's to control the whole market, to monopolize the whole market. So free market competition, especially once you have the advent of banking, eventually becomes monopoly. Lenin calls it a dialectical transition into its opposite. Free competition becomes its opposite over time, which is monopoly. And, you know, the ruling economic class is always going to control the state, the government. So there's no such thing as real capitalism versus crony capitalism. It's just capitalism after it develops for a certain amount of time. Thank you, Vipo. So people just are confused. Their version of what they think of as real capitalism is basically just socialism. Are you good at poker? No. I don't play very much. Which Western country do you think is most likely to have revolution within the next 30 years? Honestly, the U.S. The no offense to the Brits in the chat, but the Brits have this attitude. Not all of them, like not the people in my chat, obviously, but like the people in my chat from Britain will tell you that this is true. But just generally in the UK, the people have this attitude of like, God save the Queen. You know, I'm just a lowly farmer. We have to listen to the king and the queen. They're in charge. We mustn't upset the order. This is the natural order of things. The king and the queen are in charge. Versus Americans who are like, fuck you, government. You're gonna come take my guns, you can pry them out of my cold dead hands. We did a revolution in 1976, we'll do it again. You know, and in reality, a lot of those people actually are cucked to the establishment just because they don't know how things work and they need more education. But the revolutionary attitude is there in the US more than it is in Europe. In Europe, people are just like, the system isn't working, I will become fascist. We need to bring fascism back. You know, that mustache man who ran my country years ago, he wasn't that bad, actually. That's like the European anti-establishment ideology right now versus the Americans are like, we need to take up arms against Jeffrey Epstein. I'm a libertarian because I want to overthrow the government and have working class people build their own government. That's libertarianism. But our current government is communist. We need to overthrow it. They're just confused. But like the attitude is there here in America. In Germany, oh, dude, Germany's another one. When I was talking about countries that would back the White Army in the U.S., the reactionary forces, freaking Germany. Germans think that they overcame fascism, but they didn't. Do the Russian accent again. I liked it. That was my German accent, unfortunately. As I said earlier, I'm not very good with accents. That was me trying to be German. Welcome to Mother Russia. We will take you to Donbass and those Ukrainians will run away. What languages do you speak? English and un poco español. I like your video about Asmongold. Thank you. Asmongold is a roach. What concessions do you think Ukraine will have to make? I think they have to give up the Donbass region. I think they have to give up the ethnically Russian regions that they were bombing. And, of course, Odessa. Or not, Crimea. I meant, not Odessa. But probably Odessa, too. They're going to have to give up the eastern part of their country, basically. Asmongold lives amongst roaches. He does. He does. How do Americans escape the clutches of Israel? Revolution. Does ACP support LGBTQ? We support people being what they want to be and having their own private lives. But in terms of like the LGBTQ lobby, like Raytheon and Boeing waving around pride flags and saying, you know, we're progressive because we support pride, or saying we need to invade Syria or Libya because they don't have gay rights, or Iran. No, we don't support that at all, and we see it as a huge problem. You do realize calling for revolution is illegal, right? You do realize this. You do realize how good we have you arrested right now. You do realize I literally called the cops on you right now, so you better watch out. You're literally going to jail. Count your days, buddy. You do realize a revolution is, actually illegal. You do realize you have Che Guevara on your shirt, but he was a communist. Literally, and he would not support t-shirts because he's a communist. Literally. I'm sorry. Sorry. That's a really stupid comment. Would the ACP stance be on the IRA? Bro, we love the IRA. You don't even gotta ask that. Wouldn't raising socialist kids help a lot? It would. Everybody should do that. Does ACP have plans for succession if the executive board is targeted by the FBI? We do, actually. Unfortunately, that's something we have to take into account. And Jackson is already, like Randy Fine and a handful of other like hardcore anti-communist Zionist politicians recently like wrote a letter requesting that they arrest Jackson Hinkle and Chris Halali, executive board member and former executive board member. which they're both in Russia, so I don't know. It's not going to happen unless they were to get deported to the U.S. But will we have to go into exile like Lenin? Hopefully not. But it's always a possibility. I would struggle with that. That would be really hard for me. I love my community and my family and my friends. But you gotta do what you gotta do, you know? One of my best friends in the world is in exile in Russia right now for believing the same things I believe, so. Thank you, a kind bird. You are a kind bird. What are the chances a third position movement gains power in the U.S.? Gains power? I don't know, but gains popularity? Highly likely. Thoughts on the increase in left comms? Yeah, I don't know what the deal with that is. Motherfuckers just need to live in reality. Thank you, King Bird. Kind bird. So what exactly do you believe? The same thing Marx, Engels, and Lenin, and Mao, and Stalin believed? Thank you, kind bird, for the cranes. Woo, paper cranes. Thoughts on ice cream? Big fan. Thank you, Michael. I love ice cream. Loki want to cuddle with bro and talk about domestic policy. Yo, chill with that, okay? I mean, I appreciate it, but like, what are we talking about here? Assad, I've talked about Assad so many times since Syria fell. So many times. Deeply flawed leader, but a leader who the U.S. wanted to overthrow for many years because he did good things. Nice brick wall, thank you. Please, may I join Midwestern Mark? Join the stream? Yeah, 1 second. 1 second. Carlos wanted to come up too. So, let me see what he's doing real quick. I'll be right back. Alright, hopefully Carlos will join us soon. Do you like Nasser or Gaddafi more? Probably Gaddafi. Nasser was based, though. If I had to choose, though, I'd say Gaddafi. But what Nasser did in fighting Israel on behalf of all the Arab countries is so, like, commendable. ACP does have a reading list. Yeah, we have a whole education guide.
Hello to
Hello,
Midwestern
Kindberg.
Mark. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
I am good. I like your stream very much.
Thank you.
Last time I'm here, I make you song and ask you about Spider-Man, and I
Oh, yeah,
agree
that
with
was
your takes very much. Today, I have come with more of a hard-hitting question
All
because
right.
it's about the integrity of your party.
Okay.
So your party short name is ACP.
Yes.
And you will spread your message primarily through the internet.
Yeah, I'd say that's true.
The problem is on the internet, there is something called CP, and it's very bad.
I agree.
When I'm glad you agree. It's very good to agree on that, especially. But when you say to people, "Hello, my name is Midwestern Mark. I am from ACP," maybe they will think, if their English is not good, "Hello, I am Mark. Would you like CP?" And they will not like you. You see? You need to think about these things when you make political movement.
That's true. That's a good point.
Please, will you take this up with Jackson Honkel and Hazal Dadin?
I will. I will bring them your concerns.
Thank you, Midwestern Mark. I love you very much.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye with me, Midwestern Mark.
Goodbye. Thank you for coming up. Bro, that was the best call I've ever gotten. I wonder if he's even like Arab or Middle Eastern. He's probably just some white guy talking like that. It is very good to agree on that point. You missed the Gucci fried rice, bro. That was hilarious. Oh my goodness. Haven't laughed that hard genuinely on a stream in a while. That was good. That was really good. Please take this up with Jackson Hunkle. It's very good to agree on that point. There's this thing called CP. Oh, it's hilarious. Oh, man. Rank your top 5 favorite Arab leaders. Bro. Does Ghassan Kanafani count? He wasn't a leader, but him, George Habash, Gaddafi, Nasser, and Assad's dad. Any thoughts on Swoletariat pecs? Like the Apex, but for comrades? I love it. Let's make it. Literally just joined, and the first words I hear you say are CP. Yeah, bro, some guy just called and said he had a very hard-hitting question. And it was that the ACP may sound too much like CP. That was hilarious, dude. Do you think Jackson would be allowed back into America? Jackson's going to have to come back on a tank. It's the only way. It's the only way. Who's your favorite communist leader? Probably Uncle Joe or Mao. I like Ho Chi Minh. Kason Phomavane or whatever, however it's pronounced in Laos, was pretty based. Fidel and Che. I would support ACP if it wasn't full of fake LGBTQ liberals who LARP to be communists. Hey, I've never heard that one before. I get told all the time that we're anti-LGBTQ because we don't care if people are gay. Or what people do in their personal lives, but I've never been told that we are LGBTQ. I guess, bro. Please use they, them pronouns when addressing me, brother. Favorite plane. Whatever one the Soviets used in World War II. I don't know that much about planes or tanks. Did communists fumble the bag in the 20s and 30s? No, they were better it depends on what country you're talking about. In a lot of countries, yes. In the U.S., that's when they were actually not at their peak, but they were pretty powerful then. And they would go on to get even more powerful in what's called the golden era of the CPUSA. But do you celebrate the 4th of July? I mean, my family does, and I love my family, so yeah. I'm the guy at the 4th of July just talking about... I'm not like the leftist who's like, you can't be enjoying this right now because America bad. Don't you know? We need to do a land acknowledgement before we eat these hot dogs. But I'm like, in 1776, they kicked out the British and they fought back. And, that was pretty based. And maybe we should do that again. If you love America so much, maybe we should do another American Revolution. Which one is it? Is ACP homophobic or gay? The world may never know. The world may never know. I'm a big fan from Des Moines. Yo, what up, brother? Join the party. We need more members in the Iowa chapter, bro. The Iowa chapter's lacking. All my followers from Iowa, I need y'all to join up. Come on. I appreciate you for being a fan, but we need you in the party, brother. I always have to go to Illinois when I'm organizing. Also Iowan. Bro, let's go. Look at all these Iowans in here. Bro, if you guys join the Iowa chapter, you get to be my best friend, okay? I'm using parasocial internet relationships to recruit for the party. I don't know if y'all are like that or not, but like, you can ask me about health and fitness, or we can go to the bars downtown together if you're in the Iowa chapter. acp.us/join. I really, really want more Iowa members. It's kind of like disappointing for me and disheartening that the Iowa chapter isn't as big as some of the other chapters, because I'm like, come on, this is my own home state. I want to make a community farm too. I want to get like a plot of land and run like a party farm here in Iowa. So if you want to help start that with me, join up. Do you think Pol Pot was a real communist? That's a long story. A very long story. The biggest ACP chapter is probably Florida. Florida's the fastest growing. California is big, Illinois is big, and New York is big. And then Florida's just recently hit 61 members, I think, and they're growing every day. If you're in Florida, man, join up. They got really good stuff going on. Michigan's pretty big, too. Can I be your best friend even if I live in Israel? No. No Israelis. Pol Pot, great opera singer. What do you think Fred Hampton could have done if he wasn't unalived? I mean, who's to say? That's even sad to think about, isn't it? I mean, he was recruiting so fast that the Black Panthers had to put a limit on like how many people could join their organization because they couldn't vet people fast enough. Like, so many people were joining. Fred Hampton was just had all this energy around him, and that's why they had to take him out. Oops, I didn't mean to send that invite. Sorry, whoever I just sent that to. I was trying to click on this. Thoughts on Sawant? She got 13% in her election running as an independent, right? That's based. That's a pretty good percentage for running outside the two-party system. I like Kshama Sawant. People think the ACP is like dogmatic or doesn't want to work with anybody. Like, anybody who works outside of the Democratic and Republican Party, we're in favor of. Like, if you want to run for the Greens or something, then we'll support you. Like, I think Kshama Sawant's awesome. Do you like Hassan? Well, I think Hassan, has a lot of good takes and has, moved a lot of people ideologically in a better direction. But, like, I disagree with a lot of what he says, and he works within the Democrats. He's filtering a lot of revolutionary energy, not towards the Greens or ACP or anything independent, but towards the Democratic Party. And I think that's a losing strategy. Whereas Kshama Sawant is trying to build something independent, so even though it's different than what I am part of with the ACP, that's why I support her. Is PSL going to the conference in Chicago? I wish. They're too scared. If you're from PSL, pull up. Pull up to our Marxism conference, September 4th and 5th in Chicago. Tickets in my bio, it's cheap. To power, would y'all change the glorious flag? I don't know, we gotta decide on that. We gotta decide. My liberal friends are now very confident in reform over revolution with the rise of DSA. Yeah, just wait and see how it plays out. I don't think it's gonna work real well for them. All right, let's see if Carlos texted me back. I forgot I was on. All right, Carlos is going to join us soon. He's doing some stuff at home. I agree, King. Yeah. I'll never get the hate for reform. Just spend a year of your life working for some DSA candidate and then either watch the Democratic Party establishment crush them or watch them slowly sell out the more time that they spend in office and watch them not actually fight for any reforms, and then you'll understand it. I was a reformist at one point. I was a communist who was like, we got to work with DSA and Bernie Sanders. And then I saw how the system works from the inside, and I was like, we're not going to get anywhere unless we build something independent. The only way you're going to get any reforms is if you have something independent that actually threatens the Democrats and forces them to adopt reforms. That's what the CPUSA did. You know, the CPUSA was strong enough to where they were able to force Roosevelt to pass some like pro-worker policies. But it wasn't by working within the Democratic Party that they did that. It was by building something independent that could threaten the Democrats' power and then negotiate on behalf of the workers. But you need a party and an organization that actually represents the workers. And the thing about Hassan, like, he has such a large audience, and I get there's a lot of energy behind the DSA right now, and they're winning some smaller elections around the country. But ultimately, he's taking people who would be revolutionaries, who would be interested in building something independent of the Democrats, and pushing them into the Democrats, albeit the left wing of the Democratic Party, but still the Democratic Party, still the party that funded a G-side in Gaza. And, you know, even a lot of these candidates that Hassan supports, like, I hate to say it, but Abdul El-Said, even though, you know, we're all glad that Haley Stevens lost, that Dolores Umbridge, that Midwestern Dolores Umbridge AIPAC puppet lost, Abdul El-Said supports continuing to fund the war in Ukraine. You know, and who knows what he'll even be able to get accomplished working within this kind of system and within a party that spent millions and millions of dollars to try and make sure he didn't win the primary. So... the Dubai landlord socialist. Bart Simpson lost his election. Yeah, exactly. Does ACP have a Maryland chapter? I believe we do. A DMV chapter? Meaning for like DMV employees exclusively? I don't know, but maybe we need to create like a DMV labor chat. Could I join the live real quick? Yeah, just wait till Carlos is here. Once Carlos is here, I'll let Guess up again. But I don't have the energy to carry the conversation anymore. Y'all just yappers, DSA goated. I mean, I see DSA doing a lot of yapping, but all I see AOC and their candidates doing is cozying up to Nancy Pelosi and talking about how Israel has a right to defend itself, so... they do a lot of yapping about how Israel's bad, and then they vote for Iron Dome funding, so who's the real yappers? Oof. You know. DSA is Zionist? Yeah, DSA actually had a vote on whether or not they should support Zionism, and the anti-Zionists lost. It was like 60% of the party said that they should support Israel's right to defend themselves and right to exist. So... that goes to show you where DSA is at. And that being said, you know, the fact that a lot of normies are joining DSA and becoming socialist, again, I don't think that's a bad thing. But it's not a bad thing so long as we can get them to move forward and realize the futility of working within the Democrats. Yapping is how you make it in American politics, if we're being honest. That's a good point. Universal child care, what are you doing? Yeah, because we have universal child care in America right now. Good point. Good point. Why don't you have a kid? Do me a favor, have a child, and let me know where universal free child care, or how much universal free child care you get, buddy. Let me know. Because last time I checked, daycare costs are higher than they ever have been in this country. And we've had AOC, you know, I donated to AOC's campaign. And I'm telling you this, right? Because I believed the same thing that you did. I'm like, wow, these DSA candidates are going to change the Democratic Party. And they're going to get us universal child care and Medicare for all and all these great things. And then next thing I know, she's buddying up with Nancy Pelosi and talking about Israel's right to exist. And the cost of daycare is higher than it's ever been. And 40% of Americans have medical debt. So let me know Go have a kid and let me know how good the universal child care is. It's not futile. How we got Trumpism? What? We got Trumpism because the Democrats are so ass that all their revolutionary energy went to the Republican Party and this guy who was promising to end the wars and bring the jobs back. We got Trumpism because Obama promised to bring revolutionary change and then sold out the American people. That's how we got Trumpism. We got Trumpism because of your beloved Democrats. And because they're just a bunch of yappers who talk about hope and change and then sell out the American people to their corporate donors and the party elite. Thoughts on Alex Soros? It's interesting that Alex Soros is like buddies with Mamdani and these DSA candidates, because it kind of shows what DSA is. Like, their voting base is mostly like college educated, young, upper class or upper middle class kids who the system is no longer working for them anymore. So even though they have college degrees, they don't have the same standard of living and comfort that their parents did. So now they're kind of rebelling against the system and rebelling against the Democratic Party. And now today there's a lot of normies also joining the DSA, right? Because they have all this energy behind them. So there are more like proletarian or working class elements joining the DSA, which is good that they're becoming socialist. And I think we can win those people over. But the core of DSA is like college educated people whose parents are kind of part of the upper middle class or even the ruling class, like Alex Soros, whose father was absolutely a part of the ruling class, who are kind of rebelling against the old way. So it's a very interesting dynamic taking place in American politics, and I recognize that. I just don't think it's the answer. I know it's not the answer. I'll be real with you. I worked with those DSA people for years. Midwestern Marks 2028 campaign. Yeah, I'm not 35 yet, but vote for me for president, baby. Are cities or rural America more revolutionary? Depends on what you mean. In terms of like actually wanting to overthrow the government, definitely the rural Americans. But like, a lot of those people think the current government is communism. And they're like completely politically confused. Which is, I mean, that's true of like even like Russia and China. Like the peasants were like extremely politically backwards. But then once the Bolsheviks and the Communist Party of China went to them and gave them education and said, hey, let's overthrow the government, they were like, yeah. And like a lot of people think that Mao ordered the landlords executed in China. Mao was just like, hey, peasants, you guys can do whatever you want. And the peasants were like, these people oppressed me and my dad and my grandpa. We're going to boil them in oil. And they just cooked them landlords. And Mao was like, okay, that's what you want to do. There were even points where Mao was like, all right, guys, chill out. Let's just give these landlords a regular job. Make them work as a street sweeper. That'll humiliate them more. That's what they did to the old Chinese emperor. If ACP isn't reactionary, then why are the founding members openly transphobic and racist? Maya girl, looks like you're white. You have a white anime person as your profile picture. Why are you calling my Arab friend Hazaldin and my Cuban friend Carlos Garrido racist? Why don't you check your white privilege, okay? Because Arabs can't be racist, actually. So you are more racist than them just because of your skin color, actually. Thank you, Colin. You ever thought about that, Maya? That's the most ridiculous one. Like, I could see where you would, I could see where the transphobic allegations come from or whatever. Because we have a variety of opinions on that issue within the party. But, like, the racist allegation? Like, bro, our leader's a Lebanese American. Freaking half of our executive... I'm like the only white guy in the executive board. Me and Jack, if anybody's oppressed, it's us. It's us white folk in the ACP. Just kidding. Just kidding. Do not clip that. I'm kidding. But for real, me and Jackson are the minority, the oppressed minority. What does Miss Midwest Red say? Why are you calling my Tartarian king Eddie Lagersmith racist? Exactly, I'm Tartarian. Don't be racist against my people. Anyone can be racist? Wow, that's such a white privilege thing to say. No. Are you complaining about reverse racism against whites? That's so Republican coded of you, Maya. Don't you know that oppressed people can't be racist because the system oppresses them? Weren't you there in 2020 during BLM? When all the activists were saying that over and over and over again? Man, the pendulum has swung now, though. In 2020, it was like, like all white people are racist just by virtue of being white and upholding the system. And microaggressions, everyone was talking about those. And, like black people can't be racist. Like Jesse Lee Peterson isn't racist because he's black. It's like, have you ever listened to his show? Jesse Lee Peterson's pretty racist against himself. But now it's the opposite. You have all these white people. Oh, here's Carlos. You have all these white people who are like, I am the oppressed race. The anti-white racism in this country. I am victimized. My friend Carlos Garrido is always flexing on me because he knows so much more about philosophy. These
Can I
darn
just say,
humans.
I don't appreciate you putting me on camera. The first thing I hear is about white people.
I'm sorry. You just entered a non-safe space. It's
Everybody knows I'm like an anti-white racist. So
I'm talking about all the people who are how like the victimhood shifted. It went from like the woke stuff to now you have all these white people who are like, man, it's so hard to be white in this country.
it's
I'm
fucking
always just like,
snowflakes,
what the
bro.
hell are these people talking about? Like, honestly, what oppression have you ever faced for being a white person? It's hard to even wrap your head around. Thank you, Em. It's so goofy, bro. They're victims, and then they call the liberals like, you have a victim mentality. I'm the real victim. There's no white people in power in this country, and that's what's wrong with it. Thank you, Em. What's up, bro? How's
Yeah.
it going?
It's been going good, man. I had a long ass meeting about, well, I guess it wasn't that long, about the Marxism conference, and we're in the final stretch. It's officially a month out from that, and that's been the main project my department has been focused on. We also have a specific work group focused on that project. So it's exciting, but it's also extremely stressful, you know.
Yes, and you know how you could help us with that in the audience? Is buying tickets at the link in our bio and joining us at the Marxism conference, which is a mere $20 for hours and hours of work that we're putting in to make no
We are
profit.
such bad capitalists that even if we sell out, which I think we could, even if we sell out the venue, we won't be making enough money for what we paid for the venue. That's how cheap our conference is. There's this other socialism conference that we didn't like do it intentionally, but it's happening at the same time. The other one that's like promoted by the NGO left is literally $150. Ours is $20. So if you got that moolah and you want to give us more, you're also capable of giving more when you buy your ticket. Um, but yeah, it's going to be a very special event. We have a lot of good comrades from the Green Party that are going to be showing up. So it's not just fucking ACP people. You can hate the ACP and still show up. We're going to invite like leading democratic socialists from Chicago. I'm going to fucking invite the mayor of Chicago.
Hell
Um,
yeah. I'm inviting Obama and the Pope.
we're going to invite the Pope. It's gonna be a space of debate.
Local
We're gonna
gang
have
leaders.
the Crips and the Bloods are gonna debate in one panel. The other panel is gonna be Putin and Zelensky speaking, moderated by fucking Boris Yeltsin. May he rest in peace. It's gonna be a good ass event, no lie.
Yeah, there's DSA people in the chat today. Most of the people are aligned with us, but there have been DSAers, not many PSLers. But if you're in DSA, come, bro, come. We would love to have you there, especially if you're a Marxist in DSA. So, Obama. This person says, Eddie, did you know you're in a Hearts of Iron 4 overhaul mod, the Fire Right? I did, and Carlos is too.
Really?
Have you seen that? Bro, I gotta pull
No,
this.
I haven't.
I can pull it up and show you. It's freaking hilarious. Haas is in it too. It's like, and Caleb Maupin, I think.
I know you guys were in it. I don't know what the game is, but I know there's a game where you guys were like generals or whatever the fuck.
Bro,
I didn't know I was in it.
you should tell your dad to play it.
I should.
He would probably
Sure.
love playing as you.
Is Georgia Tech a good school? Yeah, it is. It is.
Good football team, historically.
Hi from Mexico. Hey, what's up from Mexico? I love Mexico. If if I had a gun to my head and was asked to name my favorite city in the Western Hemisphere, I'd say Mexico City.
I've heard it's
And
awesome.
that's that I haven't seen Monterrey. Supposedly Monterrey is even nicer.
Bro, you want to hear something funny? This guy from DSA in the chat says, we get called communists enough then to start showing up at tanky events, lol. Do you remember when we were like surrounded by people in that headspace where it was like Project Veritas? Carlos and I were working for the Bernie Sanders campaign.
Oh,
Both
yeah,
like
yeah.
tanky Marxists. He was a little bit farther along than me. But like everybody was like, don't let people hear you talking about the Soviet Union. Don't let people hear you talk about Marxism or Stalin. Like we had to hide everything because we were trying to appeal to libs. And then at the victory party for Bernie, we played the Red Army Choir in front of everyone, and we're marching around. We're like, "Fuck you, we're tankies." That's what you got to do, Jose. Quit hiding your true beliefs to appeal to libs. Why is this not working?
Yeah, we were like trying to get on Project Veritas by saying always like stuff that sounded outrageous for those people around us, but which is objectively true, such as North Korea being good or Stalin being good, the purges being good, all that stuff. Yeah.
You texted me once. You're like, "What's up, comrade? Are you ready to overthrow Bernie Sanders and do real socialism?" But I didn't have your number. It was like from the Bernie Sanders campaign number that we used to call people. I'm like, who the hell is this?
I had so many memes of like Bernie turning into Stalin. That's what people don't understand. For us, Bernie was like, he was literally Lenin. He was like fucking Lenin for us.
True. Hopefully that's the case for a lot of people who are like a lot of these normies joining DSA, and they'll realize it's like a PMC sort of. I don't. Have you heard Due Dissidence's analysis of DSA? It's really good. They did an interview with a guy where they basically just looked at the demographics, and it's a lot of college-educated young sons and daughters of people who are upper class or upper middle class, even ruling class people like Alex Soros, you know. And they're not making as much money, and they're kind of struggling, and it's sort of a revolution within the elite. And now they're attracting a lot more support from normies and regular people and more proletarian elements, but the core of the party is that. And that's why, like, when they voted on Zionism, 60 to 70% of them said that they still support Israel and stuff like that. But I don't know, it's just a very interesting development in America.
Angela Nagel had that analysis for the ones from our generation. It's like, it's bourgeois socialism. It's what Marx always called bourgeois socialism. It's socialism rooted in the fact that as capitalism like keeps going, the contradictions get so intense that sectors of the would have been bourgeoisie are like proletarianized and forced to face difficulties that previous generations in their lineage didn't. and that leads them towards a form of descent. And that's, I think, a good chunk of DSA.
Yeah. Someone in the chat says, "Why do you still support Scott Ritter?" Honestly, Scott Ritter was nice to us, but him and Douglas McGregor say a lot of shit that's just not true. Like they just like pull shit from their asses and say it super confidently. So I don't know what the deal with that is, but
You remember when Scott Ritter was saying that Trump's election was a revolution?
yes. And that Netanyahu was dead. Itamar Ben-Gvir was dead. He said Douglas McGregor said that I believe that Russia said they would nuke Israel if they attacked Iran. So it's like, where do they come up with this shit?
Bro, I remember writing articles for a Shanghai-based outfit, the China Academy, and I would always write about those like mainstream geopolitical things, and I would cite them because they were like, they still are some of the main geopolitical analysts, but I'd always be like, I think they're being a little bit, I think the conclusions are being drawn too quick here about being a revolution. Nonetheless, it's like, bro, I always thought, man, that's so fucking retarded. Oh, fuck. I can't say that.
Can't say that.
I know, I'm sorry. I didn't say
That's so regarded.
that's so regarded. But
Now Trump's president, we're
yeah,
allowed to say it on TikTok.
not on TikTok.
Ellison doesn't care.
But yeah, bro, it's honestly anyone who's not a Marxist, it's like speaking to a 5-year-old about politics.
Yeah, it
The
really
level of
is.
naivety.
Or they're just like, don't you think like corporations in Israel like control a lot of our politics? Have you ever noticed that? It's like, bro, I'm so like, it's kind of like, and no offense, like, you know, everybody starts somewhere. I don't mean it in like a derogatory way, but it's like, yeah, I have noticed that. And Marxists have been noticing that for hundreds of years. I mean, that's what it was like for me, though. You know, in high school, I was like, man, we sure do spend a lot of money on war and no money on things that are good for like Americans. And then I read Lenin's Imperialism, and I was like, oh shit, this was written in 1917. Like, I guess communism has always been the answer.
Yeah, it's the meme, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The guy in space, the astronauts, like it's been the case the whole time.
Always has been.
Always has been.
Oh, we're not allowed
There's a
to have.
guy here.
Oh,
Yeah,
go
go ahead.
ahead. You go ahead.
There's a guy here who's asking, what do I think of Engels' attempt to expand dialectics into the dialectics of nature? It wasn't something Engels arbitrarily decided to take upon himself. He had been more well read in the natural sciences than Marx, and he had Marx's blessing in doing all of that. And a book like Anti-Düring, even the dialectics of nature, Marx was engaging with his manuscripts and he accepted everything. So there's modern attempts to divorce Engels from Marx by saying that this dialectics of nature thing was purely an Engels thing. The first instance I see of that is a footnote in Lukács's History and Class Consciousness, but it's complete bullshit. Marx endorsed it the whole time, and himself, at various points in Capital, when he talks about the different laws of the dialectics, points to things in nature alongside things in political economy as examples.
Who's
AOC versus Vance 2028. Jesus Christ.
I might be behind on the chat, but are you saying that we're reactionary because we interviewed someone named Addison Smith? Who's Addison Smith? Addison Ray? I remember when we interviewed her.
Wait, Addison Ray, who the fuck is that?
It's some like hoe influencer. Some like TikToker. Can I join now? That's what I was gonna say. I don't think we can have people up when we're co-hosting. Which like
We did it
TikTok
last time.
Did we? Well, that's
I
because
think we did.
one of us joined. We weren't like co-hosting. It was like one of us joined as a guest. It's so stupid. Thank you, Third Obese. One sec. We can do that if you want, but let me just flip my camera real quick here and show you the mod. Oh my gosh, how do I do this? Here we go. There's me.
Nice.
Hearts of Iron. I think
Nice.
you're in it. At least Jackson is. Oh, maybe
I hate
not.
when they put counters. Vegan Bolshevik says that it shows it says that it shows the ability to request on my stream. I don't know why it wouldn't on yours.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Well, request to Carlos's stream then.
Based.
That's pretty
Eddie
awesome.
Trower
Shout
and
out to whoever did that.
bro, you saw the picture I sent you from the French theory fucking book? It just came
Yeah.
out like last week. Let me show it on stream real quick.
Yeah, that's a good idea. What are the French on, bro?
The flower of life.
So can people request to join or what?
I think so. I haven't had anyone request though. Would you do
Request.
a coalition with DSA? I mean, they are the ones winning primaries. Maybe democracy can work. Well, for us, it's about building an alternative left wing, but I do think it's conceivable a world where they try to do their whole plan of, working within the Democratic Party. But they've been the one that have often been unwilling to work with people that are looking for a route for a left wing outside of the Democratic Party. They've been quiet when the Democrats have cheated the Green Party, and there's never been any support or openness to collaboration that I've seen from their major like DSA influencers from within the party, like Hassan Piker, and people outside of it, whether it's the Greens or the ACP. But we're in favor of those coalitions. That's what we're trying to do with the Marxism Conference, bring everyone together. The Green Party people have been the most receptive. Their vice presidential candidate, Butch Ware, is going to be there as a speaker, along with other major Green Party influencers. Hopefully, we can try to get Jill Stein out. I voted for her, I think, in 2016. I don't remember who I voted for in 2020. And in 2024, I didn't vote. But yeah,
I It says if I bring a guest up, it will kick you out.
Aaron, yeah. I don't know if
I
I can join
remember.
yours as a guest since I have
We can do
the,
that if you want to do debates today,
yeah. But
and then
I
to
don't know if I
pre-post
can
it.
because I'm on the computer.
Oh, yeah, I don't
That's
know.
what was happening with Haas the other day.
Could you do it through your phone?
The place that I stream from, well, you know the place. The Wi-Fi doesn't get here. That's why I need the Ethernet.
Dang.
Let me see if I can.
Days.
It's so dumb that doesn't give me an option to just be a guest in yours.
I remember when I followed this dude and Maddie Pendleton, then I matured with DSA. Brother, you have a nose ring. You haven't matured at all. Just kidding. No judgment. But you haven't matured. You just need to spend some more time with DSA actually organizing like we did 6 years ago, and you'll realize we were right. Or you'll sell out and become a Democrat staffer like other people we worked with.
I'm trying to think of. Yeah, there's no space in the house where I think I could do the thing on my phone.
You
How
just
many
gotta
do
go
you
in the
have on your
bathtub.
stream?
What?
In the bathtub? Yeah.
Yes.
You see, there's people that are requesting on my stream
Does it say that
for,
it'll disconnect me if you accept them?
let me see. It's true philosophy. So, the deep state of TikTok. Let's see what happens. Oh yeah, by accepting guest request, you'll disconnect co-host. All right, never mind. What the fuck? Um, yeah, I'll just try. How many people do you have on yours? Probably quite a bit more.
63. I've been going for like 2.5 hours.
Okay, yeah. I have 13 on mine. What we could do is either you join mine or I join yours.
You should join mine
Okay.
then if we have more, and then just repost to your following.
Okay. Yeah. I'll close this one out and then see if I can find a spot in the house to go through the phone.
Okay, sounds good.
See ya.
Peace. Yo, even if Jackson did say something regrettable in 2022, how does that make him a reactionary? Jackson is beloved by Palestinians. He literally spoke in Yemen in front of a crowd of thousands and thousands of people who were cheering. When we went to Russia, he was beloved by all these anti imperialists outside of America. So it's like, let's even say Jackson did say something that I disagree with in 2022, which maybe he did. I don't even know what you guys are talking about. But how does that make him a reactionary on 2026 when he has to seek exile from the US government and when he's beloved by anti imperialists from all across the world? You know, like when in 2020 I was a Bernie bro working with DSA. You know, give people a chance to mature and grow. You get at someone asks you why is he a reactionary, and you're like, well, he said this one thing in 2022, 4 years ago, when he was 21 years old. It's like that's not what it means to be reactionary. You know, if we cancel everybody who becomes a communist because they said something that we disagree with years ago, we're gonna have nobody in our movement, brother. We're gonna have nobody because this is basic dialectical materialism. Everything and everyone is in a constant state of change and flux. Right? So we have to expect that people, or have faith that people can change their political outlook and become better and move forward. So even if somebody said something that you don't like 3 years ago, it doesn't mean anything about the role that they play in fighting the system today. Genuine ex-chuds are good because they know how to convert other ex-chuds. There you go. What action are you doing? We changed laws in NYC. Yeah, you guys are creating the People's Republic of NYC. Soon NYC will be under Sharia law. Inshallah. Alright. Alright, Joe. Finally. You can come
Hi,
on.
man.
Hello.
Yeah, I just had a question. The fastest growing party on like a national scale in Belgium is like the Marxist Party. I just had like a question. Like, what's your stance on them? Because like they're more reformist Marxist than like revolutionary.
Yeah, in terms of waffles, top tier Belgium. Just kidding. I don't know enough about Belgium. But like like Spain, for example, has a formerly Marxist-Leninist party that's now more reformist and
Yeah,
like
it's the same in Netherlands.
same type of thing, yeah. And that like I don't think it's perfect. There are ideological disagreements. There are things with the Spanish government that I disagree with, especially their opinion on like history and Marxist-Leninist movements. And I think there's limitations when you are working through a liberal bourgeois political structure rather than building a wholly unique workers-based structure like what the Bolsheviks did or what they've done in China with their people's democracy. That being said, like we said with the Green Party running elections, we generally support their efforts because they're independent of bourgeois parties. The thing with the Democrats and Republicans and with the DSA is that they're tied at the hip to the two-party system, which is completely controlled by the dominant ruling class. So like when more reformist socialist parties have won election in Latin America and elsewhere, we've supported it. And we've said, this isn't far enough, of course, but it's better than the status quo for the most part. So that would be my opinion.
All right, thank you, man. That was all. That was all I wanted.
Oh, you bet. You waited a long time just for that. I'm sorry I don't talk about Belgium.
No worries, man.
All right, appreciate you.
See ya, man.
See ya. What's your opinion on that, Carlos? Because it depends too. You have like Gabriel Boric in Chile, who is like a piece of shit, like claimed to be a socialist or democratic socialist, and we were like, okay, maybe this is good, and it was not. Or even like Lula nowadays. But then like you have the MAS party in Bolivia, that I think almost everybody would agree was a positive development. So it really depends on what they're able to accomplish, and
You know them through their deeds,
right.
Even when it comes to countries that are not ideologically Marxist or socialist by any means, a country like Iran's, their deeds, their actions are objectively, I think, much more revolutionary than a lot of the most radical parties with communism and Marxism and all that stuff in their name. So we live in an era where we should judge things through their deeds and not just their names. So with these democratic socialists, it's about whether they're actually walking the walk, as Noah likes to say.
Agreed. All right, Soze, we'll let you up next, but for now, Goob, what's up?
What's good, Eddie? You remember me?
Maybe. Who are you?
Johnny. I'm. It's late. I don't want to show my face, but it's Johnny. Do you remember Johnny from we used to talk a lot, like probably 2 or 3 years ago. You like FaceTime me and my friend at one point. My friend Wild and I. We talked about communes and shit.
Oh, Johnny. Hell yeah, I remember you. What's up,
Yeah.
bro? Yeah, sorry,
What's
I know
good?
multiple
What's good?
Johnnies now. How's it going, man?
No, it's good. Yo, I just had a couple of questions for you. Like, I'm just to be straight up front. Like, I'm not wanting to start a debate or anything or like get it super heated, but I think in the question of the coming what feels like global economic disaster of the West, I guess something I've been thinking about, which is like, damn, do we even have time to have disagreements with like each other anymore? Like this is where I'm at in real consideration, like, because we don't know exactly. Like, some people are more skeptical of climate change, some people aren't, right? Some people think there are like Israel's the bigger enemy, there's not this universal sentiment on the left as to what should be like top priority, right? And my question is like, there's the Marxist Leninists and the Stalinists, Maoists, the left comms, neo-Marxists, the people who basically are just postmodernists or like liberal, right? But generally there's this faction within the world that believe that everybody deserves freedom, liberation, and then there's fascists, obviously, who just want to make a white ethno state and subjugate anyone and turn women into breeding machines, right? So my question is like, is it possible in the face of like the next 10 years for there to be like a temporary coalition, right, amongst basically anyone who's willing to fucking die for this shit, is what I would describe it as. Regardless of like the different flavor of ideology or disagreements, like we can figure that shit out after we've dealt with like the Zionist fucking climate disaster doomsday piece of shit that we're dealing with, right? Like, what are your guys' thoughts on this?
I hope so. I mean, this is where I don't think there's going to be much of a debate here, because that's what we want, even like, not the fash elements, obviously, because they're like you said, their goals are horrendous and degenerate, but there are elements of like the populist right, meaning just like regular Americans who, maybe voted for Trump, but now feel disillusioned by Trump and feel like he sold them out, who would be willing to unify and fight against the system. And then, on the left too, we would like to see unity against imperialism with anybody who's like independent of the two-party system. Like I said, like you have to draw a line somewhere, and I think that line is like support for Israel, support for imperialism, like these far right elements have. And then also, I think strategically, like it's just not going to work to work within the Democratic or the Republican Party for that matter. But if anybody in this country were to create something independent that actually became popular, whether they're running in elections or whether they're engaging in revolutionary struggle, like we're in favor of that. And I do think that's what we need right now. And there's so much on the left of, you have to be aligned on all of these different issues if you want to be a part of our group or if you want to be a part of our team. Like all that really matters is that you're anti-establishment and, pro little guy, pro worker. And I think that should be our rallying cry right now. I don't know, Carlos, if you have anything to add there. You're muted, Carlos.
I totally agree. And one of the things we've called for is like an anti-Epstein coalition, which would just capture everyone who sees themselves as a dissident to the current system, disaffected by the way that things are. And I have confidence in the communist worldview and in Marxism-Leninism to be able to most clearly articulate the problems of our time and the way to move forward, to have the flexibility to not be dogmatic and short-sighted and, So I think in a coalition, us communists shouldn't have the fear that a lot of leftists do of like getting almost like infested by the politics of less politically correct sectors. But we should always, maintain the basic parameters that Lenin articulated are the ones that we need to uphold in coalitions, which is we keep our sovereignty, we keep our program, we keep our freedom to critique the people whom we're in coalitions with in a comradely manner, and we keep our eyes on the prize because, what someone who's like a normie right-winger against the Epstein regime has in mind in terms of ultimate goal is not perhaps what we do, So I think as long as those three parameters are met, the possibilities of uniting with people that are not like, with the exception of fascists, of course, the possibilities are kind of endless. And this is what we've been calling for in the US. And most of the time, it's like leftist segments that are against that form of unity because of their fucking purity fetish,
Yeah. May I respond?
Yeah.
Sweet. Yeah. I would say I would situate myself like as the one right in the middle between y'all and those people that you're talking about. Because for me, I would say that this is actually hilarious. I have to say this is hilarious. It's like I'm a centrist on the communist side, you know what I mean? Where like I actually unironically see I see your point, and then I also see the more skeptical quote unquote of hierarchy side, where it's like, I mean, there has been examples, not just fuck whatever examples of socialism that there have been, but there has been examples of people taking advantage of when we give people power, sometimes people can abuse it. And so I think there's a valid worry that some people have of nominating people into positions of authority. And that doesn't necessarily mean that we shouldn't. It just means we need to have accountability, clarity, making sure that there's systems in place that way some people don't accrue too much power to themselves. So I'm a centrist in this, right? Like I'm not fully on the left com side. I'm not fully on the ACP sort of, what your guys have said, I would say is, but I do think ultimately that we have a common enemy, and that is capital, right? And that is at least creating a post-market society, right? And in order to do that, I think there's elements, Eddie, that like what you're saying, that are true. Like we need working class members as much as possible. But I also do think, to grant both of your sides room in this is that um, someone's saying capital is not our enemy. Well, fuck you. So basically, I do think that our common enemy is this coming economic crisis of capitalism, right? Like I do think, I doubt within the next 10 years we are going to still have a currently functioning economic. The system that exists right now is not going to be functioning if it continues to exist, for sure. It's going to be like wildly different unless we take over, right? And so our goal should be, okay, how do we measure, or what metric do we need to understand who within the working class is actually beyond reach? Because like you're saying, we have to have a line. There are some people who've been poisoned almost to the degree of, like, in an irreversible way by propaganda, and will fight tooth and nail to defend the Epstein class, right? And that's sad. But this is the essence of psychology, right? So, like, some people, it would take years, if not decades, to go at the individual level to pull every single person over. So we need to have a cap. Like, is it like 70%? Is it 80%? But what is it that it's going to be? And like, what is our time limit that we're going to say, like, this is the time limit that we have. After this time, these people, unfortunately, we don't have time to pull them over. Like, they can support us, but we don't have time to pull them over, right? There's that. And then there's also like this issue that I think needs to be solved, which is, it feels like the left comms, and I would say the Marxist Leninists, just like, why can't we just be different than the right? Why can't we just be slightly different and just be like, maybe there's elements that both sides, there's holes in both of each other. Like, nobody has a transcendent knowledge of Marx. No one. I doubt this. No one in the world. I don't even think Lenin, probably who could arguably have the most outside of Marx himself, had a transcendent understanding of Marx. Not Dubois, not fucking Luxembourg, not anyone, right? So how do we make sure that we can create a Marxist movement that is interconnected and allows everyone the ability to, I don't know, engage through dialogue? I don't know. I'm just a dialogue focused person. What do you guys think?
I mean, you said a lot there. The thing with left comms is, I don't know if you've read Carlos's book, The Purity Fetish, but it hits on a lot of what you're saying, where basically a lot of leftists have this sort of fetish of purity. And if you don't have all the right ideas, we can't work together, even if we agree on 90% of stuff and we're united against imperialism and what we call the Epstein class. And not to be the one who points fingers and sees no flaws in ourselves, because obviously we're not perfect either. But I mean, the left comms are really bad when it comes to this. Nobody's a real socialist but me. I mean, that's kind of the basis of the whole ideology, is like, and there's a reason Lenin called one of his most famous pamphlets Left-Wing Communism and Infantile Disorder. Their whole ideology is basically, I'm the real communist. I'm the left communist. I've got the real interpretation of Marx, and these other people are wrong. And there's a reason there's never been, a left comm revolution in history, and it's because you don't unify people that way. You don't unify people by being puritanical. Now, to your other point, you do have to draw a line somewhere. Like, if we say we're going to align with all anti-establishment people, well, Nick Fuentes pretends to be anti-establishment. Do we ally with him and his degenerate fan base? Like, of course not. So that's the purpose of theory, to help draw that line and to help draw the political battle lines that we fight along. But I think left comms really are the epitome of what's wrong with the American left and why we can't have any kind of real unity. And I hate to be a Debbie Downer about them. I mean, it's a small group too. Like, we're trying to reach the masses. Left comms are just a sort of a leftist sect. But I think if you're trying to ally with people whose entire ideology is based on being the real Marxists, and everyone else, including those who have taken power via revolution in the past, are fake Marxists, I just don't think it's going to happen. I don't have any faith in the left comms. I don't know about you, Carlos. If you want to add to that? Thank you, Marco.
I've seen a surprising growth in their influence because all they do is function kind of like parasites and just riff off of creators and make actual original content and critique it. But like you said, there's never been a left com revolution. And I think the ultimate test of theory is practice. But I think a lot of those left cons take it to an extreme, but a lot of those tendencies of people not wanting to work together because they hyperfixate on the one thing or two or three things they have in difference when they have 90 something percent of things in common. It is a general tendency in most of the left. There's other organizations that claim to have the same ideological foundation as us, who call themselves Marxist and Leninist or Marxist Leninists, who would hate to work with people like us or even dialogue with people like us for the sheer fact that we don't want to make something like trans issues the principal contradiction. So when it comes to that red line, the red line, I think, is what one considers the principal contradiction to be. If you're in the US and you think the principal contradiction is US imperialism and everything that's connected to that in terms of the class struggle, debt, all that stuff, dollar hegemony, you're going to have a specific reading of geopolitics and of the forces within the country that you can work with. Now, within those forces, there's going to be people that are just pretending. There's going to be people that are psyops. And the only way to parse through who's real and who's not is by knowing their history, knowing how they're how they're acting, knowing them through their deeds. You're never going to not make mistakes. There's always going to be people that you'll open yourself to that are not going to be real ones, that are going to backstab and behave in truly reactionary ways. But I think the first thing that has to be accepted is the fact that any movement is going to be flawed. Any attempt at coalition building is going to be flawed. There's going to be corruption in everything. The Chinese state is the most impressive and advanced socialist state in history. And, even in 2026, they've had to purge members of leadership for issues of corruption and scheming and backstabbing and things of that nature. So who the fuck are we to think the same thing is not going to happen to us in our small little attempts at coalition building and at organizing things? So we just have to be open to that. And the person that's probably in most instances much more susceptible to corruption is often the person that thinks that they're so incorruptible that they don't ever question the ways in which they can rationalize their own corruption and their own reactionary tendencies. So I don't know if that helps at all, but
Yeah, I mean, I think I definitely respect your guys' perspectives and definitely in some ways find agreement and can relate also to your guys' experience. And I guess I have a different experience. I have a different experience of I've had some good conversations with people who describe themselves as left comms, and I've listened to their arguments. I've read a little bit of it myself. I've read also Lenin and Marx, and my main concern ultimately is what is like, what's his name from the Freedom Flotilla with Carlos, not his name. What's his name? I thought you guys might know him. The guy who's like leading the flotillas to Gaza. I don't know if you guys know him. Like the guy who works with Greta Thunberg.
Brazilian dude.
Yeah, the Brazilian dude.
Taigo
Yeah.
Avila or Aviles or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. He kind of is a good model of what I'm talking about. Like he has Tiago. Yeah, Tiago. He doesn't actually like kind of tell anyone really what his specific flavor of he just does, right? He just does it. He just sailed with 100 ships to Gaza, and that's not to say that it's not important to be able to like express to the masses what we are representing, but I do think that I mean, there's psychology papers that talk about this too, and it's that um, humans learn most through modeling, right? And it's through the modeling of freedom that we can oftentimes emancipate ourselves from, oppression, right? And so, like his actions alone, his modeling of these things were incredibly inspiring for millions of people who watched it. And he is a Marxist. I've seen what he likes on Instagram. I've seen his reposts. He's not exactly subtle, right? But he doesn't make it his main thing. He makes Palestine his main thing, because that's what I'm saying, is that the war has a front line, and it's not an ideological one. It's right in front of us.
Well, I don't think we have any disagreement there, because we're in support of the flotillas.
Oh,
My
totally,
friend
totally.
died on the flotilla,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what we mean by judge them by their actions. Like, if he's considers himself a left com ideologically, that doesn't mean we would condemn what he's doing. I think it needs to go.
I don't know if he is, to be honest. I'm just saying I know he's a Marxist. That's all I know.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, I mean, we love that's based all the flotilla stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, all I was gonna say is just like, I think time's gonna tell what actually works, right? And we will never, we're not gonna know what's gonna happen in 2 years. None of us do. But I think what's important is that the left just has to be flexible, and like you were saying, Carlos, that we have to be flexible and adaptive, and we'll see how it goes. That's all I just wanted to say.
Yeah, let me ask you one more question before you go. Do you know of any left
Yeah.
comms doing similar work to Tiago Avila?
I don't know any left comms, really, to be honest. You guys are right. It's a pretty niche subset. But what I would say is, do you guys know Spontex?
No.
He's growing a following on TikTok. He's kind of a Marx head. He's really
The old guy?
well read in Marx. Old guy, beard, yeah.
Yeah, I've seen him. He's reacted to some
I-
of my videos. That's one of the people that I mentioned when I was talking about them being parasites. Because all he does is get like creators who had videos go viral and react to them and pretend to debunk it. But the way he debunks it is through sophism, through taking disconnected quotes from Marx in contexts that are very specific, and then generalizing on that basis. And for people who haven't read the stuff, it looks quite impressive because he's citing books they haven't read. Many of them have never heard of them. But for people who have read it, like myself, I can kind of see through it. I can see all the tendencies and presuppositions and the manipulation behind a lot of his videos. I'd love to debate a guy like that.
And that
I guess I wasn't even trying to
go. It's just very typical of their mode of action is to take people who are every day organizing stuff on the ground and say, well, these aren't real communists, and it's just sort of like an ideology based on sowing division, rooted in the idea that I'm the only real communist.
Yeah, no, I definitely hear both of you. Like, I mean, as someone who's been on the ground for the past 5 years, literally living on a communal plot that takes care of people with disabilities, like I've been on the ground doing my shit. And I hear armchair leftists, all the time, like Spontex. Him and I didn't agree at first. Actually, he was an asshole to me because I joined his live and criticized him for some of the things he was saying. So it's like that's what I'm saying is like I'm in the middle here. Like I'm a centrist. I like my goal is to figure out a way to like thread the needle of, well, the enemy's bigger than all of us, right? And time is going to tell if it does come down to it that all left comms need to be purged, I'd be very surprised. And if it comes down to it that all Marxist Leninists need to be purged, I would be surprised as well. So it's just like I think the world is going to demand a certain response to the way it is right now. And it's not the same world that Lenin was in either. And that's okay. Like we can still take the kernels of truth that Lenin had. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a way to have, and anyone who says that like I really just disagree with anyone who is so fixated on only following one specific flavor. Like if for example, like there's multiple ways to make a cake, right? And maybe there's one way that's been proven to make cakes way better than others. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't another way, and that doesn't necessarily mean that we should listen to it. That doesn't necessarily mean there isn't another way. So it's like, is there a way to be able to reconcile or to remedy this like clear split within the left between this thing? And it might not be, but personally, I would wish that. And we can all. I respect your guys' opinions, and Eddie, as always, I love your content. I've been watching you through the years. It's been dope seeing your progress. It's been
Thank
sick.
you, bro.
Yeah, it's
Good to talk
been
to you
cool.
again.
Like I can't believe I've been. I mean, you took a while to remember who I was, but we've been mutuals this whole
sorry.
time, and I
know who you
I
were.
tell
I
people
just
I'm like.
if you would have told me your last name, I would have remembered right away.
Yeah, it's Keller. Yeah, but it's all good. No, I appreciate it. And Carlos, first time meeting you. You're dope. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thank
And
you, brother.
yeah,
Thank you so much.
have a
brother.
good one.
Yeah, we'll talk to you
Peace.
later. See ya. I mean, if Johnny can convince left comms to stop just criticizing everything and organize, I'd
There we
love to
go.
work with them, but I'm skeptical. All right. Hopefully this guy didn't leave. All right, DSA guy, let's go. The chairman of the Democratic Socialists of America.
What's up, bro? I was
What's
a
up?
big fan of yours a couple of years back, bro.
Nice.
Was.
Yes, and now you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
Now you're a
Yeah.
big fan of AOC and Nancy Pelosi and Iron Dome voting.
No, I
Sad
think
how
it's
things have
it's
changed.
I think it's transitioning. I think it's transitioning.
Oh, it's transitioning.
Yeah. Look, have you
So
seen
let's
lately?
not judge them by their actions. Let's just
Let's
hope that they're going to be better in the future and keep doing the same dead strategy.
judge them by the constituency. What does the constituency believe?
Alex Soros, the DSA constituency that voted
Yeah.
60 to 70% of them voted to support Zionism and the existence of Israel. All right.
Oh,
That's
come
what I
on.
do judge them by. That's real. You want me to show you that? That's a real vote that happened at the DSA National Convention or whatever they call it. 60% of them voted, or maybe even 70. It was over 60% voted in favor of supporting Israel. That's your party. It's not even a party. You're just an
Not a
appendage. of a
party, right?
Democrat.
Exactly. Well, I mean, even Mamdani doesn't agree with everything on the platform 100%.
Yeah, he's gonna sell you guys out. He already is distancing himself from socialism and saying he wants to be another Obama.
No, stop.
Yeah, he said that in an interview the other day, bro. Every time I tell you something about your own party, you say stop. He literally said Obama was smeared as a socialist, but even still, he continued to deliver for people, and that's what people are hungry for. It's more Obama. Those were the words out of his mouth. Your own guy has already sold you out and become exactly what we said he was going to become, which is Obama 2.0.
Who could have
Because
predicted this?
he's talking about stylistically,
Who
not the
could have
platform.
predicted this? No, he's talking about politics. He's explicitly mentioned socialism and said he was being smeared as a socialist, just like Obama was. And what the people want is more Obama because he delivered for his constituents. He's talking about policy and how he's going to govern. He's not saying he wants to look like Obama.
The constituencies, the banks. That's what we
He's
build
gonna
out.
bail out the banks just like Obama.
Well, that's the first person that Zoran Mamdani had a meeting with as soon as he came into his position. He had a meeting. I forget who was the name of the guy, but with one of the big, like, fucking Wall Street banksters.
And then Jessica Tisch, his IDF police chief.
Yeah.
Well, I was seeing. I don't know. Dude. I don't know where you're getting. I'll look into it though because I want to be fair. I'm not here to be combative, bro.
All of this is true. I've made videos about it.
All right, I'll look into it. I have seen the data of the constituency between not just Democratic Socialists, but even liberals, even Democrats, and it has switched a lot as far as Pally. I don't know if we can say the word or not, but people are more and more pro-Palestine. There's no question about that. This
But what does
idea
that have to do with
have-
these? What does that have
Well,
to do with
because-
these politicians?
because-
Wouldn't that be like evidence for wouldn't that be a sign that's evidence for people's minds moving away from the two-party establishment? And if these individuals have a constituency that is actively against both parties and the establishment of both parties, and they're just bringing them in by pretending to be in favor of their politics, but then not doing anything substantially when they come to power, aren't they like a form of very advanced and complex agents of the system where they just lure people back into a system that they're organically and spontaneously moving away from?
Well, because right now the affordability and the pally thing is it's chic now, and you're going to hear Republicans talk this way. I think things are transitional. I think everything you're saying is true with the neoliberal DNC, but it's changing. I see it. Most people are seeing it. There is a new movement. There is a new constituency. People's opinions are changing. I do see a move
Yeah, yeah.
towards
Okay, but there's
socialism,
one
democratic
thing.
socialism.
Okay, we're talking about two different things. You're talking about like the consciousness of the American people. I would argue that even in 2016, Bernie won the country. The Overton window that people often cite as a justification for continuing to support the Mamdanis and all these other people, that Overton window was already moved in 2016. If you look at the polls from back in the day, every single point in the center of Bernie's platform was supported by the vast majority of Americans, especially the vast majority of Democrats. And the question is, well, what is there to materially and concretely back up that change in consciousness? There's nothing, because every single ounce of that energy is shuffled back into the Democratic Party. And what ends up happening is that instead of the party itself turning left, which has never happened, there's no strategy that has, there's no evidence in history that has proven the success of that. Instead of that party turning left, what we actually have seen is that the people that get elected with all this left-wing dissident energy, they just become mainstream, like AOC. And so the Democrat literally absorbs them into the establishment while maybe sustaining the aesthetics and the looks of being radical and dissident and progressive, but without any of the substance.
Speaking of which, here's what Mamdani said, if you can see my screen. Democrats have been branded as socialists for longer than I can remember. I remember President Obama being called a socialist almost every single day by Republicans, and it didn't stop him from delivering, not just in his first term, but his second term. Yeah, delivering for the big banks and bringing slavery back to Libya. People who are hungry for a vision of the Democratic Party that has more to do with the New Deal than the raw deal that so many Americans have been forced to accept. So he's already abandoning you guys in the idea of socialism and identifying himself with the neoliberal butcher of Libya, Barack Obama.
I think he's talking about mislabeling. False monikers. Yeah.
Yeah,
False monikers.
they're mislabeling him
Yeah.
in the same way that
Mislabeling
he
him as
felt
a
that they
socialist.
mislabeled Obama.
Yeah,
When
but
he's not. He's a neolib like Barack.
But what are they accused? They accuse him of being a communist. He's not a communist.
He didn't say communist. He said socialist, which is what you guys claim to be in the DSA. And you think that these politicians like AOC and Zoran give a fuck about you.
No, I'm very explicit about saying I'm democratic socialist. I never say I'm socialist. And I believe most do. We have to make that differentiation between us and you guys. It's important for us.
Okay, bro. Well, he's making that differentiation between you and Obama, and he sides with Obama. So congrats. You got another Obama elected. Maybe you can go to Libya and sell some slaves.
Okay, dude. All right, look. This was my point. I wanted to come up and actually give an olive branch on something because you said something earlier that made a lot of sense. And the guy from before actually took my steam from it. The reason why I switched over is because the last couple of years, and I think you would agree.
Bro, you
with
didn't
me.
switch over. You were never in a Marxist-Leninist party.
Okay,
You're just
fine.
following
Okay, fine.
Marxist-Leninist
Okay.
TikTok accounts. Don't act like
Okay.
you're one of us.
Okay, true, fine. I'll roll with that just for the sake of
Okay.
continuing this. What I was sick of was the constant faction peddling, the constant over intellectualizing, which I think you're right. Arguing about dialectics all day. These are the things where I felt is completely contrary to true Marxism and the idea of solidarity of the working class. Right now, the DSA is working with Lulistas in Brazil, working also with El Pacto Histórico in Colombia. We believe that there should be solidarity and stop nitpicking these little positions, whether you're Trotsky or you're Leninist or you're Maoist. It's like trying to herd cats with you guys. And this is the thing that I'm saying. I don't think we're diametrically opposed. I think your idea of revolution is another concept to what we also are in that struggle in a different way. Maybe, okay, you don't like harm reduction. I get it. You guys are not for harm reduction. You don't care about civil rights. You
No,
don't care about any
the
stuff that
idea,
work, work is
the
for.
We
thing
have
is
never
that
said any of those things.
the thing is that you guys don't reduce any harm. You pretend to be better, and then you bring slavery back to Libya. You pretend to be better, and then you vote for Israel's Iron Dome funding, or Bernie Sanders, who said he
And
was shaped politically while living in Israel.
and continue to support states like Ukraine that have as the vanguard of their military literal Yahtzee brigades. Like Abdul Al Sayed, I just did a TikTok on him, not being super negative, but the man literally militantly supports sending weapons to Ukraine in an imperialist proxy war that NATO and the US is waging against Russia using literal Yahtzee. So please explain to me what that has to do with harm reduction, what that has to do even with your democratic socialism, what that has to do with other people in your tradition, like Salvador Allende. Salvador Allende would have never supported giving money from the imperialist American state to Yahtzees to fight against the Russian people. Salvador Allende just believed in achieving socialism through elections, That was what democratic socialism was for him.
And you say you're tired of the constant nitpicking and fighting, but our only point is that we shouldn't work through the Democratic Party as it's committing a genocide in Gaza when it's controlled by people like Nancy Pelosi and all the corporate donors and APAC and all these different institutions that actually control the Democrats. And you're saying, we think it's a super important point to call ourselves something different so we can distinguish ourselves from you guys who don't want to be associated with the party that brought slavery back to Libya and, funded jihadists in Syria and overthrew the Ukrainian government and put a bunch of literal neo-Yazis in power. So, how is what you're doing any different? You're just saying we need to draw a line and only support those who are aligned with this party that's massacring babies in Palestine and shun everybody who's not because they're too crazy for us.
I think you're absolutely right on most of the things that you're saying. But why though? Why do you think we believe?
Can I explain to you what's happening?
Wait, can I answer? Can I answer before
let me explain before you answer what's happening real quick, because I think we'll keep talking and you'll keep agreeing with us, and I think that's good. But I'll explain to you what's happening.
I was agreeing
These
with
people,
the first.
these people, every few months when there's an election or whenever there's elections, you get spammed on X, on Instagram, on every platform with all of the DSA candidates that won. And so there's constantly this sort of dopamine hit where people that are endorsed by DSA win. And you're like, you know what? This has a lot of motion. This is actually winning. This is going somewhere. Meanwhile, these other people, they might sound more right theoretically, but I don't see them post about them winning or anything like that. And it's that illusion that there's a left wing that's being built, institution that's being built to capture that discontent and that disillusionment in the consciousness of the American people. That's what makes people that, I'm not calling you this, but that are more bandwagon brained support DSA, even if ideologically they recognize all of these inconsistencies. It just feels like they're winning and no one else is. And that is a difficult contradiction. Like right now, Eddie and I can very easily predict how Abdul El Sayed is going to go. But we can't go out and just say it very explicitly because we look like party pooping unks. But in 2 years, it's going to be evident that when we have that everything we thought now and have been saying for a long time is going to pan out, because the same thing happened with Mamdani. The same thing happened with literally every other candidate that there was a ton of hype around and then just ended up being a nothing burger because you're working within an institution it's an institution. You think that they will let their own institution be subverted? Like, it's a party of the capitalist class. You think they're going to let it be subverted by well-meaning democratic socialists? Of course not. Now, if the DSA had its own party, then we're talking about a whole different jazz. You know, that's something that we can support, ally with, do a coalition building with, be critical of it, etc. In Canada, basically the version of the DSA in Canada is called the NDP. They have their own party. They run elections. There's places where they've won, and our people work with them. Our people collaborate with them. Our problem is that you guys are still cooked to the Democratic Party establishment, and you keep seeing these victories as actual steps forward, but they're not. And you'll see it pretty soon that they're just not victories. And we're going to look like the bad guys for telling you. But hopefully at some point you learn it for yourself, and you say, well, these empty dopamine hits are not enough anymore. I want an actual left-wing politics.
Okay, see, this is the problem. We're not going to have intellectual disagreements of what we see as far as the ills of the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party was built by neoliberals. But the reason why I'm completely against everything you're saying as far as tactically is because I study political management. I don't know as much about what you guys know, but I do know a lot about political strategy. And
I've got the
factions.
same degree, brother.
Okay, cool. So then you know that factions change identities and platforms every 15 years, even in the United States. What you may hear from what a New Deal liberal is not the same as a neoliberal or a Clintonite neoliberal. We all know this. So how did Trumpism happen? Trumpism happened because it imploded within the GOP. Diverger's law, which I'm sure you guys know, dictates that you're never going to have a third party in the United States, not because of the Electoral College, the way that they set up the debate system, and winner takes all in every state. Which means even if you won a few delegates in one state, in a state, they're never going to give them to you as a sum. So they rigged the system to be a two-party system. The way Trumpism took over the GOP and kicked out the neocons is the way the DSA can do to the neoliberals.
Oh yeah,
DMC.
the way Trump kicked out the neocons. How well
Yes.
that go for him? How well all the neocons who are now in his administration invading Iran? It's the exact same thing, but on the Republican side. He promised to transform the party, and then he became, he caved to the powers that be, which are the economic interests in this country. And now he's got Marco Rubio in his administration invading Iran. So you can, even if you get, into, like, we worked for Bernie Sanders. Even if Bernie Sanders would have gotten into power, he wouldn't have been able to do shit, right? Because until you have a revolutionary struggle, until you actually build an independent vehicle, you're not going to change either of these two parties. They're wings of the establishment. I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, yeah, Trump changed the rhetoric of the Republican Party. But now Pete Hegseth, who said he was a recovering neocon, is now running the Department of War and threatening to nuke fucking Iran. It doesn't work.
And why is MAGA mad at him?
Yeah, sure, they're mad at him. What are they going to be able to do about it unless they have their own political vehicle? You know why FDR passed, socialistic economic policies? It wasn't because the Democrats were better back then. It was, one, to maintain American capitalism and compete with the Soviet Union, which forced them to do it. So an independent body, a communist body. And two, because the CPUSA had hundreds of thousands of members, and they pressured FDR to do it because he was scared America was going to have a revolution. So that's how you actually get quote unquote harm reduction done, is you build an independent body that can threaten the Democrats and Republicans to actually do something. But anytime you have one of these upstart so-called revolutionaries in either party, they just end up drowning in the swamp that they promised to drain, either the Republicans or the Democrats.
I actually think it's more plausible to actually take over the DNC the way Trump took over the GOP than it is to do it the Bolshevik way. I honestly believe that.
Well, good luck with that, buddy.
I mean, I could say.
I hope you're right.
Oh,
It's not just the Bolshevik way. It's the way that every single, even socialistic or social democratic movement has articulated their left-wing politics. It's just the way of a left-wing politics, which the basic premise of left-wing politics is reject the capitalist parties and have a left-wing socialist or even broadly like left-wing populist party. This is literal. It has been common sense all throughout history. In America, it was common sense. Even like left-wing liberals like John Dewey, rejected the two big business parties and was in favor of like a third party that was like radical liberals and socialists and trade unionists. Like, it's been common sense that the fundamental institutions, the political institutions of the ruling class, their parties, are not where you should go to look for change. Just build your own parties. There's people that are getting I mean, even Bernie Sanders, he gets elected as an independent year after year in Vermont.
Yeah, he
We just
did.
had
That's
a lady in
right.
Washington that got 13% of the vote in a congressional race. I'm talking about Kashwama Sawant. Without much backing, without much hype, without much anything. What if like the infrastructure of something like DSA was used to push those candidates outside of the two-party duopoly? You know, how many, what can the ripple effect of something like that, which would literally shatter the American political horizon? Because maybe an independent third-party socialist that gets into Congress, you know, why not spend the energy there?
It was only once Bernie became a Democrat that he sold out. When he was an independent, he was winning year after year by serving the people, even though they were dumping millions of dollars into Vermont to try and get him out. Then he became a Democrat so he could chase higher political ambitions, and now he's a Zionist who doesn't do much of anything for regular people.
But okay, I mentioned it before. You guys didn't really respond to it. What do you feel about Diverge's law in the United States?
Diverge's law, that sounds like something the two-party system made up and called a law so
It's just
that they
political
can
science.
prevent
No,
you
no,
from yeah, I mean,
it's not a law.
when
It's just a
they,
concept.
Political science is not scientific.
then why do they call it a law? Yeah, I've got my degree in political science. I wipe my ass with it. It's a piece of shit. They call stuff a law when, you know, it's not science, it's not physics. There's no law there. That's just them saying, well, you know, two parties have won and this is how the system is designed. Like, we know this as Leninists. This is how the system is designed. This is why we're telling you you have to work outside of that system and build something independent to rupture it. What do you think about the fact that the Communist Party USA was a very powerful third party, and they're the ones who actually pressured FDR to do what you would call harm reduction and implement a lot of the social welfare state, even some of the programs that we still have today?
And what you
Wasn't
guys are
that
forgetting is that most of the Democratic Socialists in 2016, when Bernie lost, most of the main speakers, people like what's his face, Cornel West, who supported it. The other one, what's the name of the fat chubby one? Eddie, you know what I'm talking about? The writer, prominent writer, Christopher something, who's got a show on
Chris
Pro
Hedges.
Chris Hedges, all the major speakers, intellectuals, media people that were attached to the Bernie Sanders 2016 campaign, when he got cheated, they said, okay, we built the hype with the infrastructure of the Democratic Party. Now's the time to build an alternative third party. And the thing they tried to build was the People's Party, and it was a great big mess and all that other stuff. But the people from your own tradition in 2016 had the same argument. Like, in order for this thing to get anywhere, we have to use the infrastructure of the Democrats to build hype. But once we have hype, build a new party.
I think it's too early for a new party because, like I said, I know you guys say that Diverge's law has no basis for you. To me, I think it's a very instructional idea of why you can build a third party. It's a statistical reality that with winner takes all, you're not going to take a lot of delegates. It's just a fact. And with the electoral college, the way it's set up, how do you get past all those boundaries? It's
Burn it down. You threaten revolution, so they have to listen to you, like what the CPUSA did to FDR.
okay. All right. You know what? And I fuck with you when it comes to that. When you guys do that,
Then get
I'm
out of the
gonna jump on.
DSA.
No, but see, I don't think they're opposed. See, this is the thing.
Oh my
You're
God,
you're
bro.
trying to
You are
create.
living on a different planet pretending the DSA is something that it's not. You don't think the
All right.
DSA is opposed to revolutionary struggle against the two-party system? Are
The
you
data
crazy?
show. The data showing. I mean, what
The
happened last
data
night.
showing that half of them support Israel.
By the way, I just, again, I'm not trying to be argumentative because I'm trying to stay away from even like criticizing tanking and all that because I'm sure you guys are tired of defending all that. So I'm trying not to take this conversation to the usual tropes that we always get into when we're trying to be
Those
combative with
tropes are
each other.
dead. Nobody cares about that anymore, other than your upper middle
But
class intellectual circles.
But
Most
yeah,
people
okay.
think Stalin tough.
All right, cool. But by the way, I just Googled DSA national leadership stands unequivocally against any funding to Israel and condemned Congress's vote to
What it
provide
supported was the
billion
two-state
dollars.
solution.
They were
60% of them voted in favor of a two-state solution, which is
they were against the $1 billion
And
for the Iron Dome.
43% of them voted in favor of being they voted against taking an explicitly anti-Zionist position. And when they say they're anti-Israel, like Carlos said, they mean two-state solution, which is liberal Zionism, which it's just nonsense because like the idea is like Israel will stop expanding and give Palestine their own state, which under the fascist, Netanyahu government, the existing Israel the way that it is now, they're never going to do that. It's what liberals have said for years. We'll give Palestine their own state and Israel will calm down. Israel's never going to calm down. They're a bunch of bloodthirsty fascists.
Can I
Can
ask
I
you guys
ask this?
something? I have an earnest question. It's not a gotcha question. If you lived in New York City, right? Why can't you be Marxist for revolution and also vote for childcare with Mamdani? Why can't you do both? I don't understand. Why does
We
that have to
never
be
told
Israel?
people not to vote for.
I might have gone and voted for him if I lived in New York City.
Really?
I don't
One
think he's
day
going to do
thing.
shit, but I
But
might have gone
okay,
and
but
voted
we're
for
getting
him.
somewhere. We're getting somewhere. We can have
I
solidarity.
made a video. I said that.
Yeah.
I said I'd probably go vote for him if I lived in New York.
If I was in Michigan, I would have voted for Abdul. It's.
I
But the point is
I
about what are you expending the vast majority of your energy? Are you expending the vast majority of your energy on like getting these people elected and working within what is basically the infrastructure of the Democratic Party? Or are you going to spend most of your time building dual power, building the alternative left-wing organization that this country needs? If you're saying that, those two things are not incompatible, perhaps you're right. I only wish that more people in DSA like you thought, well, I want to work to get a DSA person elected locally, but I'm also going to put in the hours to work for the ACP locally or to work for an independent socialist organization locally and build dual power. If people have the capacity to do that, that'd be amazing. We would welcome it.
I respect that, Carlos. Regardless of our differences, I do respect that. And like what I was telling you earlier, El Pacto Histórico actually reached out to us, to me, because they had a failing campaign against their new Bukele wannabe over there, Abelardo.
Abelardo, yeah.
Pereira. So, and they called us because they've seen the data. They've repeated the data. We have 42 now in the House. They saw that we have double from last year as far as part of our part of the membership. They also saw that if you look at from last night, there were 4 that won, and now one third of the Democratic Party now identifies as Democratic Socialist. You can't ignore that data. That's good political management. It's good strategizing. It's the right direction, which is why I'm saying these are all organic transitions, which we're going to agree with you on everything the DNC has been 2026 and before, for sure. But I think it's the one way.
Accomplished?
It's the one way to
America's
get
in a
in.
worse state than it's ever been, despite these. And I've said a million times, I think the ideological way that America's going is good. And I think it's good that Democrats are being forced to say that they embrace socialism. But after Bernie Sanders' campaign in 2020, Pete Buttigieg and Kamala Harris and all these people said that they supported Medicare for all and for 5 minutes. But then when they were actually governing, they didn't do shit. And now 40% of Americans are drowning in medical debt, and it's worse than it's ever been. So the problem isn't that people go out and vote for a Democratic Socialist or whatever because they hear a campaign ad and think that they're better. The problem is the left putting all of their effort into something that they think is going to be revolutionary that ultimately won't be, because it's proven to not be time and time again, because you're working within the institutions of the ruling class.
And think about these changes, bro. Remember, it's been 10 years since the Bernie moment in 2016, which means the boomer base of the Democrats, a good chunk of them have hit the hay, while a lot of young people whose maybe introduction into politics was Bernie Sanders are now starting to get into the Democratic Party. So what appears as a growth is just the natural evolution that you could have predicted in 2016, which was that most young people were significantly aligned with Bernie Sanders' politics. So that's going to be the general tendency of the country, especially because young people in the U.S. are pro-socialism and things of that nature. So it's not. And look at the membership. DSA's membership is what, 120,000 now. That's what they posted. They were gloating about being the largest socialist organization in American history. They're not a party though, so I don't see why they would have compared themselves to the Socialist Party of America. Nonetheless, 120. Well, in 2016 they had 100,000. That was like their big slogan in 2016 with the Bernie campaign. They made it to 100,000, and I think it was actually when Trump won. They cracked 100,000. So you're telling me that in the last 10 years, all you were able to get was like a 10% increase in membership? Just in the last year, the ACP grew by 300% in membership. So I don't, that's the thing, that there's no historical memory in terms of how people judge things. They just say, oh, 120 members, oh, the 33%, all this. It's like, bro, look at it from the standpoint of where you were 10 years ago, and you're going to see there hasn't been a significant advance at all. And it's because you're still working within the same infrastructure. You didn't
And
take the lesson in 2016.
The way they count members is kind of ridiculous. There are multiple members of the ACP who are still counted as DSA members.
Both of us are probably members of the DSA.
Yes, they just don't remove people from their list.
Come back.
I'd rather die.
You see, you should. Let me tell you. Oh, there's another one I'm going to tell you guys. This is reality. We have a few Marxists in the party that see things my way strategically and believe in your Bolshevik revolution.
Bro,
They
you
see
say
it
this
as a-
stuff like we don't know it. You say this
Oh,
stuff
okay.
like we don't know there are caucuses in DSA that show their members Midwestern Marx.
Yeah, I know.
And they usually end up leaving because they realize it's a dead end, like class
Well, I'll
unity.
tell you this. What part of the country are you in?
New York City.
Oh, you're far as shit. Get us in contact with the Chicago DSA people, because we're doing a Marxism conference and we want DSAers there. We're not going to be as hostile. Well, Eddie's been a little bit more feisty than me today. I'm usually
You
not
guys
very
been
feisty.
chill. No, you guys been chill, but I'm not
So-
coming at you either. I'm trying to
You
actually
were
get
talking more shit in the chat before Carlos got here.
Oh yeah. I was doing that to get your attention. But the whole thing is this. I do honestly believe, and I'm going to say this right now, I have solidarity. I know you guys love going at liberals. I'm going to tell all you liberals, we have if you're working class, we have solidarity with you. We want your lives to be better. If you're Marxist, do the revolution. But if you also want to vote for things that help your community, your children, and your family, we fuck with you too. And this is the whole thing, what I'm saying, we need that solidarity first and change the way things are in any way possible. If you guys want to pick up pews and do it, do it. If you think it can't happen, but other people do believe that it can be an implosion within the government, that's not a bad thing. Even Marx himself saw something in harm reduction when it came to unions in the United States. Even he said, you know what? Okay, that's not exactly what I envisioned, but he fucked with it. He understood it was a good direction when he saw unionizing in the United States. So
unions are a different type of entity. Unions are an entity of working class to give concessions. You're talking about a political party.
I know, I'm just talking about the way I'm trying to be a little bit nuanced in the sense that that's what he said at the time about the concept of unionizing. I don't want this to go into about unionizing because the unions are F these days. As far as in New York, it's just another mafia. So I bet I want to, get into that topic. But that's all I wanted to say with you guys. I just felt like and by the way, I know you guys said Bernie, people got into Marxism through Bernie. Actually, Midwestern popped my cherry when I started, and Matty Pendleton is what I followed. What got me into Marx's views and reading his 17 writings and getting to all that. I just feel, I don't know, man. It was like years, like he said it earlier, years of TikTok and nothing getting done. I didn't see anyone really revolutionizing. I mean, Luigi took all the steam from the whole movement when he started doing his thing. That guy's a freaking paleo-libertarian a-hole. And there's a lot of anarchists that love him to this day. Anyways, I don't want to go into a whole tangent. My point is
nothing being done because the ACP didn't exist. Because the organizations that existed on the independent left were all products of psyops the state waged on the left wing. They were all sectarian. They don't like working with each other. They don't like working with anyone who's not themselves.
Except the
And all they know how to
Democrats.
do is preach to the choir and reproduce themselves, and there's
They all
no
like working with the Dems. Sorry.
or with the Dems, yeah.
All right, guys, I'm gonna let you go. You go to the next person. I'm sure you got more people to talk to.
Sounds good. Peace, bro.
Take care, bros.
Sorry, I'm making a sandwich and I have to go to the bathroom so bad. So I'll be back. You want to let someone else up, Carlos, or can only I do it?
I think only you could do it.
Shit. You want me to let someone up, or do you want to just yap?
Yeah, just let someone up. Make sure it's a good person. Don't give me like a furry fucking or some shit like that. No
World
anime.
girl, they/them. All right, come on up.
Oh my.
Just kidding. Let's see if this person comes up. They're gonna be offended I called them Squirrel Girl. Here we go. All right, I'll be back, y'all.
Hey, what's up?
What do I do if this guy just starts spamming the N word? Take the phone to the bathroom, Eddie.
How you doing? I won't be doing that. Don't worry.
Okay. Good. What's up? What's your question?
Yeah. I have a particular question. Socialism and communism, I guess, is under the premise. The establishment of such is under the premise of revolution. So I just wanted to know how you felt about like the concept of a constitutional convention, which is enshrined within the Constitution, which is arguably a method of peaceful revolution, rewriting the whole Constitution from scratch.
That's a good question. Look, there's good evidence to point, not just in the Constitution, but in many comments made by founding fathers, that they intended the revolution, to put it in like trot terms, to be almost like a permanent revolution. There's comments from Washington about the revolution needing to be constantly watered with the blood of patriots. And the founding fathers understood that the revolution, in order to keep its revolutionary spirit, had to continuously revolutionize itself. And what we've tended to see is that something akin to this happens roughly every 100 years or so. Every 80 to 100 years, we have 1776, the official revolution. And then what happens 100 years after? You have the Civil War. We call it a Civil War, but it was, I think, the Second American Revolution, because what ends up happening is that really the slaves are the ones that free themselves. That establishes a period of Reconstruction, which was extremely radical. It was just like these fucking Freedmen's Bureau running various states in the South. Then there's Reaction, and Reaction gets once again 100 years after smashed with the civil rights political revolution, which fully destroyed apartheid and brought about de jure equality in the country. Now the question is, when is the next one coming? Because we've seen these cycles of either full-scale social revolutions in parts of the country or political revolutions in the whole of the country. And that logic was predicted by the founding fathers, who understood that every once in a while you're going to have to change things up pretty radically. So, constitutional convention, general revolutionary struggle, none of those things are in
Like mutually
contradiction with the
exclusive.
original spirit of 1776. On the contrary, what's in contradiction is trying to stay as static as we currently are.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is that, like, I feel like from a democratic standpoint, like the fact that it's within the Constitution kind of validates the idea that if you truly want to start a movement, let's start a movement to have a constitutional convention where arguably you could get bipartisan support, on certain things. Like a lot of people don't believe in the two-party system anymore. They want alternatives, but like with the way the Constitution is structured now, that's very hard to do.
Yeah. Well, and even there, the founding fathers didn't intend there to be parties. in the United States, or at least not. They didn't want multiple parties because they felt that it would have fractured uh, the nation in an unhealthy form of factionalism. But whether a constitutional convention could occur and things be rewritten, who knows? I think it's probably much more likely that a civil war scenario ensues, and on the basis of that, we go back to like a full 0 point and are able to reconstruct the country anew after decades and decades of struggle. But our perspective is that it's much more likely that civil war is going to come before any revolutionary change is going to happen to the country.
Honestly, I'd hope for like a peaceful solution, but I guess that's
Yeah,
just
we do as
different
well.
philosophy.
No, we do as well. I just don't think it's fully realistic, especially with the collapse of dollar hegemony in the U.S. empire. The system of financial imperialism that the U.S. uses to maintain itself is not that old. It's as young as the end of World War II or even 1971 with the abolition of the gold standard. And we're already seeing fractures in that system, like with Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz and causing commodity prices to go up. And when that system collapses, there's no telling how successful the economic system in the U.S. will be at maintaining itself. I mean, they were saying if the strait would have stayed closed longer, we were on the verge of complete economic catastrophe here in the U.S., and that could only lead to one thing, which is a full breakdown of society and an eventual civil war. So it's unfortunate that it has to be that way, but we're just looking at the reality.
Yeah, I mean, like I do believe that neoliberalism is a self-feeding, like unsustainable system for sure. And I am of the opinion that it will collapse at some point. I guess maybe I'm stating the obvious, but it's like I am more of a democratic socialist for sure, just because I do believe that I want a peaceful solution, so I want to at least try. You know what I mean? Like, but like I was listening to you guys before, and you admitted, like if you lived in New York City, maybe you'd vote for Mamdani, right? Because like it's just common sense at some point when he's advocating for like good policy.
Yeah, maybe
I mean,
if I
the
had time
thing is
that
that you can be a democratic socialist, but just not work within the Democratic Party. Build up an alternative socialist institution. Our problem, our real qualm, and I've said this many times, Mamdani could have had like the platform of the 1936 Soviet Constitution, but if he would have ran with the Democratic Party, it would have been the same because there's structural limits to being within that bourgeois party, within that capitalist organization. So it's not about the policies themselves. There's of course many problematic things from our standpoint with their policies, geopolitical positionings, etc. The essence of the problem is the fact that it's working within something that has a very clear structural limit, and they don't recognize that. And insofar as they don't, there's going to be a lot of energy being expended that is going to end up going into what is a nothing burger. Energy that could have gone towards building a real alternative left-wing organization.
Thank you for the galaxy, M. I'm becoming an NPC TikToker. Carlos is having these deep debates. I'm like, thank you for the galaxy.
No, I'm getting literally exploited. And you started by calling me a white man when we started, but now I'm like, I'm doing the labor, and you're just getting all the fruit of the galaxy.
I'm a plantation owner right now.
Midwestern Marx plantation.
Well, what makes me kind of cautious about like Marxist-Leninists is like if you look at the history during the Bolshevik Revolution, a lot of democratic socialists and like libertarian like socialists were labeled as reactionaries and exiled and like had political violence done onto them, and that just makes me weary, to be honest.
You're seeing one side of the story. The reason why all of that happened was because they literally allied with the whites. They allied with the people that were waging a civil war against the Soviet government, and were trying to forcefully overthrow the government by violent means, and were supporting terrorism with a T in the front, if you know what I'm
Backed
saying.
by the U.S., the UK,
14
Germany,
governments.
14 different capitalist imperialist powers were funding them and giving them troops and
It
weapons.
wasn't like Allende. It wasn't like Allende was like existing. Allende style leftists existed in the Soviet Union, and they just got like repressed because they weren't pure enough for the Bolsheviks. That was not at all what happened. On the contrary, like the people from their ranks that were like chill, like Gorky. Gorky was kind of from those ranks. He wavered, but he was chill with the Bolsheviks. He wasn't like counter-revolutionary, and he even got positions in the government. Even anarchists. Kropotkin was offered positions in the Soviet government, and they were the ones that said no, and they were the ones that then supported the White Terror that was supported by those 14 imperialist powers.
Well, back in the day, Stalin wasn't what's it called? Like Stalin was definitely doing that kind of stuff too back in the day.
Not really. The question is, who was he doing it to? If you look at the period of great purges in the early 30s, there was actively a conspiracy to overthrow the Soviet government while they were literally preparing themselves for an invasion of the Yazis. There was people high up in the Soviet government that got killed, like Kirov, and got killed by people that were with the faction of the Trotskyites. And Trotsky celebrated that act as a bold example of what was needed to remove this this degenerated worker state leadership and save the revolution. And they were trying to do a revolution within the revolution, which was actually a counter revolution within the revolution, because they genuinely thought that the way that Stalin was going to destroy the revolution. And so they were taking up and doing that by any means necessary. And when you're a state that's trying to prepare itself for an invasion, while you're still trying to develop, while you're still trying to industrialize agriculture and get out of the misery that you inherited from the backward Tsarist regime and the period of war communism where you got invaded. When you're in that context and there's these idiots trying to kill leading people in the government and basically have a coup, and that are being supported by foreign intelligence because it's been proved that there was over 100,000 agents from the West in the Soviet Union. I mean, yeah, you're going to end up throwing people into gulags, and you're going to end up unaliving some of the key leaders. Even Trotsky. Trotsky gets killed extremely late in the game. Trotsky first got exiled to Siberia. Then he kept on his shenanigans, got exiled outside of the country, was allowed to travel through fascist Germany and Italy. Very strange when all of the communists from those countries were getting repressed and thrown into concentration camps. Somehow Trotsky, whose narrative about the Soviet Union was the one that the Yazis adopted, was able to go all around those countries. And it was only when he was in buttfuck Mexico, still producing the propaganda that was taken up by the Yazis to attack the Soviet Union, that's when he gets slimed. That's when he gets ice. But Stalin was as humanitarian as you could possibly get with the question of Trotsky, because he let him yap for like 10 whole years before deciding to pick up the ice pick.
There's a reason why Stalin had the cult of personality that he did, and why he's more popular among regular Russians today than even Lenin. And there's a reason why Xi Jinping has as much popularity as he does in China. And that's not at the expense of the purges, it's because of the purges. Because as we know very well here in America, corruption is a thing. And that's true of a socialist government as well as a capitalist. Obviously, it's worse in our government. But what makes Xi Jinping so popular in China is similar to what made Stalin so popular, and that's that he purged the corrupt leaders who were trying to sell out the country to foreign entities. And I mean, this might sound like tanky babble to you, because I understand the sort of position and the circles that you're coming from, because we came from the same ones, at least to some degree. But a book I would recommend to you is Domenico Lacerdo's Stalin Critique of a Black Legend. I could recommend Grover Furr to you, but that would probably sound like tanky babble. Also, some people just dismiss Grover Furr. But I actually read that book before Carlos, and there were certain figures who Stalin purged that Carlos was telling me that was a mistake. They shouldn't have purged him. And when I was reading that book, which is a critique of Stalin, from Lacerdo, a fair critique of Stalin, I was like, that guy who you said Stalin shouldn't have purged was like allying with terrorists and throwing bombs at people in the government and being backed by foreign intelligence. And then he was like, oh shit. And then Carlos read the book, and it's like, I know it sounds like crazy tanky stuff, and sure, I'm sure there were excesses, you know, especially when the Tito-Stalin split happened. Like, there were people who got accused of being like Titoist agents who absolutely weren't. Like, you know, it's no government ever is going to be perfect. But the majority of the people that got purged were corrupt and were trying to destroy the government from within and were working with foreign powers. And Lacerdo isn't even like a hardcore, hardline ML the way that Grover Furr is, but he just looks at the historical data and finds evidence that all these people Stalin purged were either working with the Yazidis or some form of foreign intelligence. And, you know, in any country, in any revolutionary country, if you're working to destroy your government like that, there's going to be punishments. And there's also just like, you know, historically, the nature of revolution is not always super pretty. Like, look at what did they call it? What was the terror called in the French Revolution? I can't think of it. The Terror. Yeah. I was thinking Red Terror, but that's what they called Stalin's era. The Terror. I mean, you're always going to have this period of revolutionary consolidation of power. I mean, Iran, and it's sad because there were certain people who considered themselves communists in Iran, but after the Islamic Revolution, a lot of those communists just joined the government, and a lot of them like continued fighting the government and committing attacks against them and siding with Saddam Hussein's invasion of Iran, and they were cracked down upon by the state. It's, you know, kind of a brutal nature of revolution historically, that there has to be consolidation of power after the revolution. And it sounds crazy for somebody who's been living in a world of Western propaganda their entire life, but Stalin was like as humanistic as he could have been about it, which he told me that a few years ago. I would have sounded crazy to me, but
for the record, I still believed that someone like Bukharin probably shouldn't have been iced, but only because he was a good intellectual. The bad intellectuals, you can ice those. It's like if you told me, you know, do you ice Chomsky for the Epstein thing? It's like, yes. But if Zizek now has a relation with Alex Soros, do you ice him? I'm like, no, he's a good intellectual. Let him write from prison. So that's always been my humanitarian position on Bukharin. And I read the book before. I just still had that. I read the book in Spanish before it was ever translated. Bukharin, I've always had a soft spot for Bukharin because he was a scientist.
That's not how I remember it.
He was a scientist. He was the guy that got off in 1933 at the Conference of Science and Technology in London, which was the reason why the British Communist Party never developed Euro-communism, because they were based Stalinists that accepted the dialectics of nature. British Marxists were always based because of the influence of the Soviets, and the main person that they sent out was Bukharin with a whole gang of Soviet scientists. But yeah, I'm still in favor of like not icing Bukharin.
And you know what? The Chinese method, like Lenin didn't order the Romanovs killed, by the way. It was some random Bolsheviks who like just kind of did that. I mean, there's no evidence. Maybe he did, but there's no evidence. But the Chinese method of just giving the emperor a regular job is goated. Like,
yes.
If you have the ability to do that, just like humiliate, like imagine President Trump working in a mine or as a street sweeper. The first time in his life he has to work a regular job. Like, I'm in favor of that rather than smexecution. Just make him actually do work for once in his life. Okay, sorry, Alex. Do you have anything to say? We've been yapping.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of assumed what circles, I guess, I based my ideology off of, but maybe I can clarify. Yeah, I guess you were partially right. You know, like I definitely do identify with the DSA. But additionally, you know, philosophically, I've definitely been interested in Enrique Dussel. I don't know if you've read some of his stuff, like The Philosophy of Liberation. You know, and I look at revolution through an epistemological lens, which I feel like can only begin if you have the framework for it, such as like free education for all, you know, and like a quality education that actually helps people develop themselves intellectually and prepare them for a working position, stuff like that.
Dussel is one of those that, under a good Stalinist regime, he shouldn't have been killed for critiquing the government, but he should have been allowed to continue writing from prison. He should have had the most comfortable conditions in prison. I'll tell you a story, Alex, about Dussel.
Countryside.
I was in Mexico giving a conference on my book at UNAM, which was the university that Dussel was teaching at. The people that brought me over told me, "Do you want to go meet Dussel on Wednesday? He has a class, a lecture." And I was like, "Yes, definitely." And then later in the day, they're like, "Actually, let's go out drinking. You're constantly coming back for conferences, so you can meet him next time or something." I left that weekend, I think on Saturday or something. He died Sunday. So I never got the fucking meet him.
Wow.
But yeah, I've been reading Dussel for like more than 10 years. I've been reading him since I was in undergrad, actually.
Yeah, I find his theories fascinating, and the way he structures geopolitical struggle, I find it very enlightening, to put it a certain way.
I've never read Dussel.
For me, his best book is not the many he's written on theology and philosophy of liberation. His best book is called The Theological Metaphors of Karl Marx, which just got translated a couple years ago. I read it first in Spanish, and then I got the translation a few months ago, and I read it again. But it traces out, it's probably the best book for tracing out the relationship of Marxism to religion. And it makes the most convincing argument I've seen that if you're a true Christian, you cannot possibly be pro-capitalist.
Yeah, I think it's a very smart way to frame it, because like especially in like South and Central America, religion is very paramount in many of those places, from my understanding, right? So it's like to sync up the two can really solidify the movement more in a way. Like the forced atheism, in my opinion, is kind of a problematic concept, at least coming from the United States, where like religious freedom is like kind of important to people.
Have you read what Lenin said about religious people joining the party, where he said even a priest could join the party so long as they kept it separate from their party work and weren't trying to proselytize?
Well, I haven't read anything specifically about that. I mean, I honestly only have like sorry.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. That he just wrote explicitly on that problem, and he said freedom of religion should be allowed, but the party itself and the state should be secular, and that people should be allowed to have their private religious beliefs. And he uses this hypothetical of a priest joining the party. He says, would it be possible for a priest to be a Bolshevik? And he says it would, but they have to put the work of the party first. They can't be using the party to proselytize. And even I would say in the ACP, we're even more lenient on that, because we allow people to use religion, Christianity, Islam as a propaganda tool or a way to reach people, or we allow them to experiment theoretically with trying to synthesize religious ideas. So I'd say we're even less staunch on that ourselves than the Bolsheviks were. But even Lenin, was, forced atheism, I guess, would be too harsh of a description, in my opinion.
Okay, maybe not forced, because I mean, I guess maybe a little background is, I don't know how much you value anecdotes, but like my family came from the Soviet Union, and I know many people that lived there, and like one of the things that I learned is like I've met members of the former members of the Communist Party. And one of the things was like this guy went to an Easter celebration, and like it's not like he was sent to a gulag or something, but they noted it on his file. This guy's religious. Just like keeping tabs. And
those
what
are
they do
important
with that
things to
information.
note in the. I mean, think about it. Like the institutions, like the Orthodox Church, was for so long used as a base of reaction. And enough degeneracy. Who the hell was that talking, objectivizing me? The institution of the Orthodox Church was used for so long as a political and not just religious institution. And you know, if people are going to churches for religious reasons, that's fine. But if you then start to see a pattern of behavior that could lead someone to think that the person is counter-revolutionary, noting something like church affiliation is important, because those are institutional associations that you know haven't always been as politically neutral as they have purported to be.
It's kind of like an unfortunate reality when you're under encirclement by imperialism, where you're kind of forced to keep more tabs on people, because if you don't, and I mean, of course, this happens in America to an even worse degree with the NSA spying and things like that, and persecution of people like Assange. Like it happens in capitalist countries too. But it's almost like a reality that's enforced on them, where you have to keep tabs on people, like in Xinjiang, China, which, you know, they did have increased surveillance, and this was framed as a G-side ridiculously by the United States. But there was an increase in surveillance there of Uyghur Muslims, but that was because there were a bunch of horrific terror attacks between 2008 and 2014, where this U.S.-backed group called the East Turkestan Islamic Movement was beheading people and running around the streets with their heads. Hopefully that doesn't get our live restricted. But the Urumqi riots, which was like a jihadist-led uprising, led to over 100 innocent people having their lives taken. And this ETIM group was covertly funded, or if not directly funded, their growth was facilitated by the United States, who helped get weapons into their hands. So it's unfortunate that those people would need to be put under surveillance at all for their religious beliefs. But it's like, do you put them under surveillance and crack down on the extremists genuinely? You know, the U.S. claims to crack down on extremism, but they're not actually. They're cracking down on anti-establishment energy. Do you allow these U.S.-backed... Right, exactly. They're cracking down on anti-fascists, whereas in China, maybe they're cracking down on the actual fascists. But also, that region has more mosques than any other plot of Muslim majority land on earth, and those people are given cultural protections. They're just not allowed to be errorists. So, I mean, and no state is perfect, and the conditions that are enforced on these states by imperialism are rough, but it's always important to put them in context, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really appreciate your time, guys. I learned a lot, and I really appreciated the conversation. I don't want to take up too much time. I don't know if it's probably other people who want to join up. So,
sweet. Thank you so much, man. Sorry for yapping your ear off.
No, I really appreciate it.
Sounds good. Have a good one.
Have a good night.
Yo, Liger, I'm at 1%, bro.
You're at 1%. Do we gotta call it?
Yeah, I'm gonna call it at least.
Okay, I'm gonna go to sleep too. I've been going for like 4 hours.
All right.
All right, peace, everybody. Thank you very much.
See ya. Peace.